with him. And yeah, who knows, man? Who knows what schemes they're cooking up?
JD Vance is like basically just CIA funneled.
Right, but like you said, but maybe they want them. Maybe CIA needs a Monero.
It does. It does.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's keep it moving. Body, thank you so much as always, man. Stick around if you can. We're gonna have Aaron up here. It'd be awesome if you could stick around. You could talk to him as well. But
yeah, I'll be here all day.
Let's get it moving.
Awesome. Thanks as always, Body.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Body.
All right. With that being said, I guess we'll jump into the guest segment.
Do it.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, Aaron, what's going on, man? Oh, I think you're muted. Are you muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, got you now.
Oop, hold on. I think I might have gone too far. Can you hear me? We good?
Yeah, I hear you pretty well. Tux,
okay.
Good on your
awesome.
end?
Yep, sounds great.
All right. Yep,
awesome.
We're good. What's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for having me. Busy, very busy times. Very incredibly busy times. All this political stuff, which is all bad. And I'm more worried about kind of the acceleration of, and not only CBDCs, but the crackdown on crypto and privacy coins in particular. So I'm just trying to get as many of these workshops going as possible and get in front of as many people as possible, warn them about it, and onboard them to privacy coins and alternatives. And by the way, I've shifted since our last interview. I've pretty much moved entirely into privacy coins because the landscape has changed. Because clearly what's happening is they're going to regulate and really clamp down on not only on privacy coins, but they're going to do more tracking. I mean, at this point, the IRS is going to require reporting self-custody crypto holdings. Coinbase is already working with the IRS, and they're using AI to track people's transactions. I mean, Bitcoin really isn't fungible anymore, and that is going to become incredibly problematic moving forward.
Which I'll continue with the question we were asking Body. Which administration do you think Monero will thrive under more? A Trump win or Kamala? And there's a bunch of different ways of looking at this, right? But yeah, how do you think things would shake out with the Trump versus Kamala presidency?
So I think my view on this is that there's been consistent. America 1.0 is over, and we need to start working on alternatives. And I've thought about this a lot, and it's. I think the best case scenario is Harris wins the presidency, the Republicans take control of the Senate, and the Democrats have the House. The reason that I say that is if that happens, then the Republicans that are holding on to this idea that Trump can fix things, that will go away and people will actually start looking for alternatives. But by having gridlock in the Senate, it will prevent Harris from being able to completely crack down and go totally rogue. So to me, that's the best scenario. Now, what's actually going to happen, I don't know. I do think Harris is going to win, but I thought the Bitcoin Nashville conference it made me sick watching that. I mean, I'm just like, you're going to use theft through civil asset forfeiture, coins from people that we know. I mean, Ian Freeman's coins are part of that Bitcoin strategic reserve, right? Ross Ulbricht's coins are part of it. So what's the incentive system here? Now, if we get pulled over for a speeding ticket, are they going to confiscate our crypto wallet, right? I mean, civil asset forfeiture is horrible. And so that is the basis of the strategic reserve. And the other thing is people I'm writing an article about this for Brownstone where I'm going to go through the actual legislation itself. Cynthia Loomis is anti-privacy. She has had comments and quotes that are explicitly anti-privacy. She says she's only for coins that have an open and transparent ledger. And, so her Bitcoin reserve and buying 1 million Bitcoin, I find it to be like if Nancy Pelosi came up and said, hey guys, I want to spend $1 trillion worth of taxpayer money to buy my stock portfolio and hold it for 20 years. How would people look at that? And that's essentially what she's proposing with this Bitcoin strategic reserve. And I'm like, wow. I mean, it's the worst form of cronyism. But I think the worst development of all of this is the fact that now that Harris is running and they have this crypto for Harris thing, the worst scenario is they actually pass crypto legislation before the election. That's actually the nightmare scenario. Because you have to understand the basis for what they would pass, the starting point is the Loomis Gillibrand bill. And she's put this bill up now twice. She put it up last year and then she put it up again this year. So what does the bill say? Well, first of all, the bill bans algorithmic stable coins. It enhances KYC AML. It puts more reporting requirements on exchanges. And it essentially gives stable coins to large financial institutions and puts regulatory barriers designed to kind of push out the likes of Tether and USDC. And I actually don't like stable coins at all, but the idea that we're going to give monopoly control over stable coins, I mean, that's a backdoor CBDC. What people don't understand is that we really already have a CBDC. I mean, we have a digital currency. It's in an Oracle database. The Federal Reserve runs on an Oracle database. It is digital. 92% of our money is digital. Whether it's the Federal Reserve issuing the digital currency to the banks or the banks tokenizing it on their end as stable coins, it's the same outcome. It's programmable digital money either way. So there is no solution where we don't end up with programmable digital money. Either the Democrats are going to do it directly through the Federal Reserve and the Republicans are going to do it through stable coins. So there is no choice between these two candidates, and there is no legislation that is pro self-custody, pro freedom, or pro privacy. That's not even being drafted, contemplated, or discussed. So to me, that says more urgency on getting people out today and to start using privacy coins for day-to-day transactions today. That should be an absolute imperative. And when you look at things like Kamala Harris saying we're going to do price controls, well, boy, it'd be easy to do price controls if you had a programmable digital currency, right? I mean, if you look at some of her insane economic plans that we know don't work, they certainly would be very well facilitated by programmable money. So again, the message is always the same: get out and stop using the fiat system in whatever digital form it's in.
Scary times, man, but exciting times. How are you getting good feedback at these events? Are people coming out? Are you meeting a lot of noobs? Are you converting people?
I actually was sick for a couple of weeks, so I'm really ramping up. We've got an event coming up. I'm going to be it's in New Hampshire. It's Chris Martenson has his Peak Prosperity events. We're going to have 225 people there that we're onboarding. We have an event in New Jersey that we're expecting up to 300 people on October the 5th. We're rescheduling our Nashville event, which will be in October or early November. So the demand is huge. I mean, we're scheduling 15 of these events now, and now we have people in different countries. We have people in New Zealand, we have people in England, Canada that are now interested in having these workshops. So the demand is huge. As to the conversion, I mean, the good news is when people sit through these workshops, they're all converted. Everybody walks away with the crypto wallet. But thanks to your introduction on this, I've actually moved over to Cake Wallet. I actually think Cake Wallet, because last time I was on, I was like, DEFCON 1, we need a wallet and a point of sale system. And as I said, I don't necessarily want to build these things if I don't have to. But talking to Vic, I think completely aligned, and obviously it's actually the best solution, and it's an easy solution to onboard people, because within the wallet you can use the relevant coins, right? You can use the coins that Monero, you can use Bitcoin Cash. They're going to add Zeno, which is awesome. That's a huge game changer as well. And then the fact that you can buy gift cards and debit cards, you can do all that within the wallet. That is actually the best solution that I've seen. So I think that's going to really help with the adoption through these workshops. The next piece is the point of sale system. The point of sale system remains the real gating item. We have to have a good point of sale system to have an alternative when they try to roll out CBDCs in an emergency. And the update on that is, I think what we can do as a starting point is actually just fork AnyPay. So if you're familiar with the AnyPay point of sale system, if you know those guys, they had to kind of leave when some of the FBI bad stuff happened here in New Hampshire. So they've open sourced that. So I think that's a starting point, and then we can build from there. So who knows, maybe we can work with the Cake guys on that as well. It is a good starting point. And I've also talked to the Alpine people about tokenizing gold backs. I've actually been working with Zano and really playing around with that. I've actually tokenized a gold back, and I've sold a gold back. So through a decentralized exchange with no third parties, just to show that what you can do. And what I said to the Alpine people is I said, listen, I can buy these gold backs and I can go to my barber and I can go to the local merchants and I can pay in gold backs, and this is private. But if I go to your online system and I use your online system to do transactions, it's all KYC'd, it's all tracked, all of it's in a centralized database. So you need to have the same privacy protecting features for the digital form of gold backs and gold and silver as you have in the physical. And the way to do that, the way to bridge that, actually, I believe, is Zano. And so I may be going out to Utah to talk to them about that, because I think that's a big part of the overall.
Yeah, I know Benjamin from Goldbacks was working on something related to that. You're communicating with him? You've been talking to him?
Yeah, he left there, and he has another idea as well for doing this even on a more decentralized basis. And I'm open to it as well. In fact, he's helping us work on a workshop out there.
Okay.
So I'm all.
He's a great guy. We'll try to get him down to Monerotopia as well. I think he might come down. I think we get him down.
That's awesome. So I think things are actually proceeding pretty well. And as you know, once you see these workshops and you see how people interact with crypto, here's the thing. I know we can win. I know we can provide an alternative, but I almost want to have more people from the crypto community just observe what these workshops are like and see what it's like when you're in front of 200 or 300 people that are boomers, that are non-technical, and to show them what the onboarding experience is like for crypto. It will be eye-opening. And so the thing is, people are not afraid of digital payments. People use digital payments all the time. There was this announcement this week that USDC now has touch to pay with Apple, right? With your iPhone. Well, we need that, right? We just need to build better products. And if we focus on the design and the UI, and we can do this with point of sale, and then we've got Cake Wallet, then when the time comes, we're going to be able to onboard people. But there is huge interest in this from people that have never used crypto before. That our audience isn't the people already in crypto. It's I think last month, 0.4% of Americans use crypto to buy or sell something. So like 99% plus of the market is still available to us. Most people have never used crypto, and they're open to it from the standpoint of they appreciate COVID tyranny. They understand that bad things are coming next. They know surveillance is increasing. And if you're a small business, you know that every time we have one of these emergencies, the large WEF companies are rewarded at the expense of small business. So small businesses are yearning for a solution. We just have to make something that's actually easy to use and has enough buying power that it'll be worth their while. So I'm pumped. I'm actually pumped about it, and I'm glad I'm feeling better, because we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I'm excited about. Oh, by the way, I'm really excited about Monerotopia. I've done some interviews. I talked to Crypto Vigilante. I've had a couple of really interesting, in-depth interviews with him. And one of the conclusions that we had, and I wanted to talk to you about this today, is,
please,
we need to work on marketing and selling privacy. And I mean this in a way where it's like, privacy is obvious to us. Privacy is not actually inherently obvious to everyone. In fact, young people, like this Cato thing that shows that a third of Gen Z would be okay with the federal government putting surveillance cameras in people's homes to monitor for domestic violence, right? And so we actually have there's a huge discrepancy here. And I'm going to write an article about it and do a whole series of interviews around this idea, kind of the philosophical basis, the moral basis, because we need to talk about that as an actual, just kind of a natural right. But then people need to be aware of the surveillance state. and how bad this has gotten, and then how much worse it's going to be, because we get pigeonholed. The privacy coin space is always like, oh, this is dark web. This is all about drugs and money laundering and terrorism, right? That's how it gets pitched.
Mhm.
But I'm sitting here saying now it's like, no, we can reach out to health freedom groups, food freedom groups, people that are getting shut down, that are trying to sell raw milk, or people that, with everything that's going on kind of behind the scenes, what they're doing to farmers. These are our natural.
Have you seen XMR Bazaar? That's kind of where we're trying to go with that. I don't know if
yeah, I've seen XMR Bazaar, and I love that concept, but we can open up a whole new audience. Like this can start to become mainstream, because people need to understand what you think is black market today are the things that you use on a regular basis tomorrow. That's absolutely the direction this is heading. So like if we could do like a roundtable or something, and really start working on countering this message of, you're guilty before proven innocent, and you must be doing bad things, and because you're involved with privacy, and actually just double down on the fact that privacy is a right, and that everybody is going to want this where we're headed.
Are you familiar with Sal the Agorist?
Yes.
I believe he's coming down to Monerotopia, and
Awesome.
I want to maybe try to get you on a panel with him and one or two others. We could have it around this topic of how we actually take action to opt out.
Yeah.
Shortwave Surfer is tipped 25 cents. Aaron is a real freedom fighter. Thank you for your work. Aaron, by the way, have you seen this tool that we launched as well? This is a exciting little app, xmrchat.com. So it's a way to send super chats with Monero. There's no sign up as somebody sending a tip. It's actually pretty cool.
I haven't used it yet. I remember getting a DM about it when it was in development. So yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool.
Check it out. Would love to get you using it. Super easy to create an account. A couple of clicks, you just put your Monero address in there, and you as a streamer, you have an account. Like you could have xmrchat.com/Aaron Day, and then anybody watching your stream can go to that URL and very easily send you a Monero tip without paying any fees to any third parties.
That's awesome. I love it.
So when you're talking to these people, these noobs, which I love that you're doing this. I do it as well, but I love that you're doing it in like an organized fashion, and making it so perhaps we could start to get it to scale. What are you telling people that do take interest, and they're like, okay, well, how do I obtain some Monero? How do I get my hands on it? Just curious what kind of advice you're giving people.
Well, right now what we're doing is we're working with Vic, so it's going to be part of that's part of the onboarding process. So people are actually going to be we're giving people Monero as part of the workshop.
And then you're instructing them to use like instant exchanges and whatnot to whatever they go buy Litecoin on some centralized exchange, transfer it to Monero, or they use XMR Bazaar and start selling stuff from Monero. I'm just curious if you're talking because those are good lessons, right? For noobs.
And even the features within the Cake wallet, right? So you can actually do some transactions right within the Cake wallet. I am looking for and by the way, this is a struggle, because I haven't been using centralized exchanges for a long time. I've been out of the whole thing, living off of this stuff. And so as I've tried to help people that are like, oh yeah, I want to get more involved in this, it's so much more difficult to use centralized exchanges to do anything now. I mean, it's like the KYC process and everything else, and how long it takes with the bank account. Maybe Kraken. I might actually try to see if there's a way to partner with them on this as well. I don't know if you have any recommendations, because Coinbase is not it. I will tell you that much. I absolutely will not recommend or touch that. But what are your thoughts? Because they're these people are so new to it that actually just them having a wallet and then seeing what you can use. People don't realize that most people don't even think of crypto as a currency. It's actually not even a use case. Most people that I talk to only think of it as a speculative investment, and most have a negative opinion of it. When I do these workshops, even the presentation of it, it's about sound money alternatives, because I am showing gold and silver and crypto. But if I just made this about crypto, people wouldn't show up for the workshops. Now they get their mind changes during the workshop, but the the kind of the bias already, and what their expectation and knowledge and thinking of crypto is so negative that if this were come to the crypto workshop, nobody would show up. That's how bad this is.
Totally agree. Yeah, the bridge is the bridge that you're using, which is opt out, and people are waking up to the need to opt out, and then you're teaching them crypto as a tool they can use to achieve that goal. I totally agree with you. That's the path forward with growing the tent.
So what I've been doing is I've been, so some people have Coinbase or whatever, or Kraken, and there's always so you're in the workshop and you give people crypto and you show them how to do it. And then I'll get responses back for the people that are really want to go to the next level. Then I walk them through how to do an exchange account, and that becomes kind of a one-on-one back and forth time consuming thing. So I need to actually come up with a solution that I can embed into the presentation where we can kind of accelerate that. I've been recommending recently, by the way, there may be better alternatives. And if you know what they are, let me know. But I've been recommending Exelix to people.
Oh yeah. Exelix is great.
So buy whatever you're going to buy, BCH or whatever. I don't recommend stable coins, but buy BCH, buy whatever you want to buy, and then use Exelix to swap it for a privacy coin. And so that's been something that I've been recommending.
Yeah, Exelix. Actually, they just recently started sponsoring one of the segments. We haven't started posting yet, but we will next week. So Exelix is great. They're good instant exchange. We'll have them on the show too if people want to talk to them and get acquainted with them. But there's not a lot of trust involved with instant exchanges because you're never holding your money on the exchange. But I don't think they're known to do shotgun KYC. So there's no KYC, and I don't think they have a bad habit of doing shotgun KYC. And their fees are competitive. But obviously Trocador is always a good one that kind of the community talks about because they basically, look at all the different instant exchanges and give you the best rate type of thing. And it all goes through Trocador, and they're very good with no KYC
and that's built in, as I understand it, that's integrated into the Cake wallet.
Yes. Exactly.
So although it didn't have Zeno, which is something that hopefully that'll change.
Oh, okay.
Because I know Zeno. If I go to Trocador directly, I can use Zeno, but it wasn't, at least last time I tried in the Cake wallet. So hopefully something happens there.
Okay. Yeah. I suspected. Well, Tux, you got something to say about that?
That's a swap that we could probably enable it even before Zeno is available in Cake as a wallet itself, because there's an open, a PR that needs to be finished for Zeno and Cake wallet. It'll be there fairly soon. Probably I'd suggest the next few months. Hopefully Zeno will be in Cake wallet. But even before then, we might be able to enable the swaps with Zeno within Cake wallet. Obviously Zeno wallet will just be outside of Cake. That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Something I can look into.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful. And I'll tell you, once again, this is why I like Cake. The fact that Zeno is going to be integrated. It's like, so my talk is about, so CBDCs are, all assets are going to be tokenized. Money only represents 5% of total assets. Everything else, stocks, bonds, your house, everything is going to be tokenized. And they're actually already building centralized versions of this. So the way I look at it is, Zeno is for tokenizing non-monetary assets, and then you use Monero and Zeno for actual privacy as an actual privacy coin. And the fact that that's integrated into Cake wallet, like that is the powerful combination. To me, I'm saying that's the answer to CBDCs and what's called the Great Taking, which is this process where they've changed all the contracts, where when there's a big financial collapse and there's a bankruptcy, you won't have ownership of your stocks or 401ks. It'll go to the largest banks who are the secured creditors. So you don't own your stocks, you don't own your bonds, you don't own the money that's in your bank account. So we need to start privately tokenizing and trading our own assets and exiting the system that way. So it's a powerful combination, and Cake wallet is going to be like the go-to place for that. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's a tremendous idea. And yeah, if it could be done in a privacy preserving way, that is the breakthrough there. Amazing, man. Amazing. Any news, thoughts, info about Roger Ver? I know you're in contact with him. Just curious if you have any updates.
So, I've gone through I spent 5.5 years in a really complex lawsuit, and so I make an effort to just not even talk about it. Like, I don't want anything where there's discovery or anybody's brought in, so I don't even talk about it. So I have no inside information, and I intentionally don't even talk to him about it. However, I will say I just have an intuitive, not great feeling, but there's no information to support it. And by the way, this is just so and it may be unrelated, but the DOJ reopened their action against Kim.com within 24 hours of Roger being arrested. And then we just saw this extradition order signed against Kim.com. I don't know that there's anything related between Roger and Kim.com, but I can't describe it, but I have a sense of unease about it. But that's not information. That's just, I could be just wrong or overly paranoid. And the reason I guess I have heightened paranoia about this is that after going to Ian Freeman's sentencing hearing, and then, Roger retweeted the invitation to that. And then 7 months later, he gets arrested. I guess I'm on a heightened sense of awareness because we know the government is cracking down on crypto. It's government policy under Executive Order 14067. But with that said, that's no information. On the flip side, on the positive side, since this is all speculation, the IRS settled, billions of dollars of FTX tax liability for pennies on the dollar. And Michael Saylor resolved his tax situation. So if we're looking at the recent precedent, then Roger should be able to resolve this extortion situation, fairly straightforward. If he doesn't, and they're actually pursuing this, then we really know that this is motivated by something other than just the standard extortion and, getting their cut of the money 10 years late, right? Then there is something deeper involved, and then that would be alarming. But I'm hopeful that he resolves the situation amicably and quickly because we need him back in the fight.
What is potentially the deeper motive there? You think it's an anti-Bitcoin cash thing, crypto privacy thing, or anti-using crypto for digital cash purposes thing?
So I've thought about this. So when you like Carolyn Ellison, so Sam Bankman-Fried's girlfriend at FTX, her dad works is at MIT, and he works on marketing strategies for basically manipulating population and kind of whole behavioral analysis type of things. And in fact, he worked on, in particular, how to optimize getting vaccine uptake. And I bring this up because you think about this in terms of pandemics, right? There's who's patient zero? Because if you want to see the virality of something, you want to see, who are the real sources of a movement taking hold? And if you look at that, and that they look at things this way, then if you look at two of probably the largest players responsible for getting people involved in Bitcoin are Ian Freeman and Roger Ver. So I believe that they were silenced because they are known to be effective, probably some of the most effective people in the history of crypto at getting early adoption. I mean, this is just a fact. Ian introduced Bitcoin to Roger, and then Roger, became Bitcoin Jesus and did all of the stuff that Roger did. So I believe, and I actually even said this in the book, and I talked to Ian about it before, he was actually sentenced. They need to shut down crypto, which they're doing with the exchanges and the reporting requirements and everything else, because if they're going to roll out CBDCs, they need to make sure that there's no competition. So I believe that Roger is in this situation, and that the timing of his situation is completely related to the fact that it was just a few weeks after hijacking Bitcoin went out. Because if you look at the timing of this, I think the Bitcoin ETF hit in January, and then 3 months later, this book hits, and then 3 weeks after that, he's arrested in Spain. So I don't think they want him talking about hijacking Bitcoin. That is my belief, is that the timing on this is related to not wanting him to talk about hijacking Bitcoin, because right now people are being psyoped into thinking that Bitcoin is, freedom money, and it's not. It's ridiculous. You have people buying financial instruments where they're 2 levels removed from the Bitcoin. They never touch the Bitcoin. All of it's tracked, and yet it gives people the delusion that this is going to be something that is going to be able to be used to fight CBDCs. And so Roger destroys that narrative in this book. I mean, the book is, I have been blocked by everybody. I've been blocked by Adam Back. I've been blocked by Samson Mao. I've been blocked by all of the core devs just for writing a brief thing saying, "Hey, I read this book. It's great. You should read it." Like that was essentially what the post was. So people do not like the content of this book. And I engage with Bitcoin maxis often on my post, and nobody has refuted any of the facts of this book. So this book is incredibly powerful, but now Roger can't talk about it. And so Roger can't talk, which is why I actually spent a lot of time, you might have noticed on social media during the Bitcoin Nashville thing, I actually took a lot of the content of hijacking Bitcoin and tried to really push it through on social media, because I'm sitting here saying the whole book that Roger talks about in hijacking Bitcoin, that the whole big block thing is about propaganda and censorship. And now here we are, they're having a conference where they're inviting presidential candidates and everything else. And I believe the censorship of Roger involves him being arrested in Spain and basically being in a position that he can't talk about it. It's next level censorship in a way. So I wanted to try to get the information out. And by the way, people are reading this book. I should show you, I should share, if I can get permission, some of the DMs. People that were Bitcoin maxis have changed their mind. I've had messages from people that said, look, this has, it's been jarring, because once you know this, you can't go back. But I've had people that have said they're now alienated from their social circle because they were in a group of Bitcoin maxis, and now they can't go back. And so, I mean, they were actually saying they're grateful that I'm putting this content out, because now there are more people that they're able to meet. But this book had a big impact, and it would have had a much bigger impact if Roger weren't in the position that he was in.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, I think it ended up bringing a lot of attention to the book, right? Yeah, definitely. The word's been getting out. I actually haven't sat down to read it myself. I need to. I feel like I know most of what it's all about, but I need to give it a proper read.
Well, I remember what was going on at the time. I wasn't I was more just using Bitcoin. I wasn't like directly involved in this stuff, but I knew generally what was going on. But when you read it really it's jarring, because it's not like, this book could have been Roger ranting about his experience, and it's not. The majority of the book is he's using public comments from the Bitcoin core devs and from the other side. He's using their own words and their own facts in the timeline. So when you read it, it's like, oh, like, I didn't realize some of the specifics around replaced by fee. And I have a different way of describing what happened. I view CBDCs and this whole ultimate thing is to create a global currency backed by energy credits, where the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals are elements of a social credit system. And I won't unpack all that now, but I think there's sufficient evidence to this. But it's all about technocracy. It's about elites using manufactured scarcity to create their own closed economy that they just so happen to dominate and have control over, right? That's what happened with Bitcoin. It's a cap and trade system. Luke Dash Jr. said, we're going to keep the block size small. And then Peter Todd came in and said, we're going to use this replaced by fee auction system for how you can bid up your transactions within this false, scarcity model. So I call it cap and trade, and it's technocracy. What happened to Bitcoin is every bit as a technocratic agenda is what is going on with CBDCs and the WEF. And but once you see who funds these developers, and you actually start tracking, because Roger's book goes from kind of inception up to 2017, and I've been following it from 2017 on. And it's like, how many people tied to the CIA and the NSA and to nefarious characters do you want funding the developers of your open source project? I mean, Michael Saylor has been working with the CIA and the NSA through his company. His office is like 10 minutes away from the Pentagon. I mean, this is a guy who's now saying officially in his own words that the point of Bitcoin is to comply with KYC AML, to pay your taxes, and not to compete with the euro, the dollar, MasterCard, or Visa. These are his stated words. So we've got a guy who's worked with and been a consultant for, deep state agencies out pushing that as the narrative. How did we get here?
And everybody's cheering for it. It's like the iron right before everybody's eyes. Amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
They're
so entrenched. Those that are entrenched. I know you're saying people are reading this book and they're getting deprogrammed, but for the most part, those that are maxis are so entrenched. There's no hope of bringing them back. It feels like, I don't know.
Some have. I will tell you, there are a few that have changed. There are Bitcoin core developers that troll me every day, that are actual active Bitcoin core, and I try to interact with it, and part of it is, so I read the book Block Size Wars. That's kind of the other side of this, I guess.
Yeah.
And I might write an article about it, but whether I read an article about it or not, I would say I don't think it's far off even what Roger says. Like my takeaway from that book is that it's not that big blockers are wrong. It's that their tactics sucked. That's what I take away from the Block Size War book. And in fact, when I read it, it reminds me, and by the way, this is something I think we need to talk about as a community, because Roger talks about propaganda, censorship, DDoS attacks. All of that actually happened, right? But when you look at that, there's a parallel in politics with the Democrats and the Republicans, where the Democrats, people are like, well, Kamala Harris, she didn't even have a primary. There's no democracy here. But the Democrats win because they all fall in line. They remain unified. They use propaganda. They use the existing institutional format, and it actually wins. And so even in the block size war thing, so on the block size war, there were a couple of different proposed block size things going on, and there was competition even within the block size thing, and the small blockers just remained unified, and then they used their censorship and propaganda. So as much as we don't like and I don't want to use their techniques because I don't want to become them, but we actually do have to acknowledge that, those techniques work, and why do they work, and what can we do to disrupt that without actually violating our own values. That's an issue that I don't have any resolution to, but I've really been thinking about it a lot. So
Rise to Liberty saying, just FYI, Monero fam, this New World Order, CBDC, Smart C, social credit score nonsense will be officially launched here in Utah. It'll be previewed at the 2034 Olympics. I've got the docs and will gladly share.
Hey, please, if you would please reach out to me at Aaron R. Day, I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that.
Yeah, Rise to Liberty, you're welcome to jump on, obviously, as well. If Aaron hangs around, you can jump on to the viewers on stage and talk directly to him as well. Prying Lantis tipped $1.69. This is literally a movie. Yeah, it is. It's a scary movie with like an obvious ending, which is technocracy.
Everybody using privacy coins, and we defeat the technocracy. That's the ending.
Well, the current plot, we're trying to change it, but the current trajectory is a losing one. Obviously, we're doing everything we can to change it, but yeah, obviously, I wouldn't be out here, man, if I wasn't an optimist like you are. I think it's possible. I think math is on our side, right? That's the power of encryption. Empowers people. It's a technology that we've never had that literally can democratize everything in the most positive sense. Decentralized power that no central authority can control. That's the power of encryption. And all they can do is try to make it illegal. But we're at a time where everybody has access to it, and it's open source, and it's pretty much impossible to stop. So it's just a communication issue at this point, and communicating to people the need for people to use these tools and realize that they're doing ethically the correct thing and they're on the right side of history is my short take on it.
Well, so that's why I think if we can have like a marketing panel, or I know have a lot of conversations at Monerotopia before then too, but really I'm looking forward to actually interacting with people there, because if we can,
you're gonna love it.
If we can start putting out marketing messages, so take those 17 sustainable development goals that the UN has, right? It's like they want to control, 15-minute cities, or they want to control energy. They want to control the land, the air, the sea, all of these different aspects. Well, those are natural allies. Groups that are opposed to those 17 sustainable development goals, those are our natural allies. Those are groups that, if we present this to them in a friendly way and sell, because they understand why privacy is important. They don't want these things either, and they understand, once they understand that the control system for the behavior that they want to control is behavior that almost no one would want if they were aware of it. And so there are already groups that oppose these different individual items. And if they realize that the control system is money and that private money is the solution to stop this, then we can actually open this up to people that would never have been, normal people that we would think about in a, Monero community or Zano. And they also haven't been, the good news, by the way, about talking to these new people, these noobs, is they haven't been tainted by, oh, I'm already tribally aligned with one coin and one project, or they're not like, they don't have all of the baggage. So that's actually a really good thing, is that we actually get people from a clean perspective. So if somebody new is like, hey, I'm at this event because I lost my job because I refused to get a vaccine, whatever the reason is that got them there. And now, like, I want to fight back, tell me what to do. And then their first experience with this is, oh, now I've got Cake Wallet and I've got Monero. That is their very first experience. We define what their experience is without the baggage. Well, you know what? 99% of the market is out there like that. It's greenfield. So as much as there's the fighting internally, and I admit I do some of it just because I saw the Bitcoin Nashville conference as something that really set us back 6 months, because just, like the idea that people think that politicians are going to facilitate crypto adoption, it doesn't even make sense at any fundamental level. It's so beyond. How did we go from peer-to-peer digital cash to, well, gee, maybe I can get them to steal people's crypto and make it a strategic reserve, and then, financially rape and pillage my children and grandchildren to use taxpayer theft to buy more of it. Like that's just not part of the plan in any way, shape, or form. And now, but the cult is like all rallied around that. So we do have to differentiate to the extent that the Bitcoin core maxi narrative dominates, because it's what's on mainstream media. You're going to see Michael Saylor on CNBC. You're not going to see Roger, unfortunately. You're going to see, and whoever's advising Trump and RFK. I mean, first of all, RFK's,
I wanted to ask you about RFK. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
RFK's running mate, who funded basically his campaign, her boyfriend works for a Lightning Network startup.
Okay.
So the advice that RFK is getting is completely warped and biased. And by the way, but completely counter to. So RFK is I'm the anti-corruption guy.
Exactly.
And now you've gone out and said a significant portion of your net worth is in Bitcoin. The person who funded your campaign has their livelihood, the boyfriend's livelihood is Lightning Network. And now you're talking about buying that's the croniest thing I've ever heard of. You have negated all of your environmental stuff and your health freedom stuff by your actions immediately in front of us right now. So I was stunned by that. Like, wow, So,
yeah, especially the tie-in with chain analysis companies and the revolving door between regulators and those who previously worked at chain analysis companies and vice versa, right? That's like an RFK Jr. thing that he should be all over, right? Like seeing the corruption there, and for some reason he hasn't picked up on that. So I don't know. Is he a hypocrite? Is he just a dirty politician, or has he just been fooled? I don't know.
I don't know for sure, but if he's been fooled, then he probably wouldn't be a very good president. At some point, I would expect. Actually, I don't have any expectation, because I don't think that there's a political solution. But if I did think that there was a political solution, I would want somebody that. Him being duped on crypto is kind of like Trump being duped by Fauci. Like it's kind of like that level.
Right. Exactly. I tried talking to his administration about it when we were at the Libertarian National Convention, and yeah, there's a disconnect there.
There's a disconnect, and I got him a copy of my book in there, and I know some people that are actually involved with this campaign, and I tried to get some information to him, and whoever he's got bad advisors. Very clearly has bad advisors, but more importantly, he doesn't seem to have an openness to expand the field. And so at the end of the day, it's just, again, I think the irony of all of this is that he's basically going to hand the election to Harris because as I said, and as you know, the Democrats fall in line, including Kennedy's own family members. So who is he taking votes from? He's taking votes from Trump supporters that are like, yeah, the fact that Trump's not even walking back Operation Warp Speed. I mean, even if you said, okay, well, the guy made a mistake, but he could learn from his mistake, he's doubling down on the mistake. So for a lot of people, if that's your issue, you're going to vote for Kennedy. And then on the crypto side, you could even see how it pans out. You even see Max Kaiser and all of these other people. It's like, oh, Trump and Loomis, that's only 1 million Bitcoin in the strategic reserve. Kennedy's 4 million. So right. I see it online. So Kennedy is taking crypto and health freedom votes from Trump and is going to hand it to Harris. It's hilarious. I mean, it's not really hilarious, but it's so not what I think people were expecting the quote game theory to work out. So anyway,
yeah, it's like a movie, like that other commenter said, and to see all these politicians just doing this, what's so predictably the political thing to do in such a showy way. I mean, it's terrifying to watch, right? It's terrifying to kind of predict these things and to see them happening. I know you're very good at that in a scary way.
Loomis is an Ayn Rand villain. Cynthia Lewis, she truly is like an antagonist in an Atlas Shrugged or a Fountainhead kind of movie, and just the fact that she put laser eyes in her bio, I guess that gives her a pass. But everything that she's doing, all of her legislation. So when I write this next article, I've got to balance how long it's going to be versus everything else. But all of the crypto legislation that has been written by Republicans gives more control to bankers, and it has more reporting requirements. And it's bad for privacy. There has not been a single good piece of legislation. And so people have this idea that somehow Republicans are better on this. And now we're going to have the worst case scenario where we're going to have Loomis Gillibrand as the starting point, with now Chuck Schumer coming in, trying to get something passed, which means it's only going to get worse from there. So the worst case scenario is we get crypto legislation this year. None of the crypto legislation is good. The sooner we get the legislation, the worse it is, because that actually shortens our window to doing this stuff. This is why I say we need to make the whole moral and come up, I don't know what all is the big marketing case around privacy to market to these groups that I am so sick of this whole, we know, we see it. We're guilty by default. We are assumed guilty because we're engaged in privacy coins. That has to change as the mindset, like just head on. That's absurd. From a moral perspective is this idea. I mean, I see it on my thread all the time. I have people from BSV trolling me all the time, which is weird in a whole other different way. But we need to make privacy a necessity. People need to understand the necessity of privacy. It's not an optional. It's not a nice to have. It's the only way out. And I think if we work together on that, we can get that message, and we can get new people on board because they're ready for it and they're starting to appreciate it.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Any thoughts on JD Vance and Peter Thiel and Palantir and where they, how they could affect the dynamics here if Trump were to win? I don't know if you're familiar with.
The interesting thing, I wrote an article about this 4 or 5 months ago saying Trump was going to lose kind of no matter what. And the reasoning behind it is that these elections, the candidates don't matter and the policies don't matter. The elections now at the national level they're propaganda campaigns run by big data and AI. Mm-hmm. The Republican Party and the Democrat Party, they have massive databases. The Democrats have a huge advantage going all the way back to 2008 because they invested in it. So they have 500 data points on every voter. So they know that they're just going to send out the week before the election. They're going to do a big get out the vote campaign. They're going to go into nursing homes. They're going to be like, if you don't vote for whoever the candidate is, you're going to be out on the streets. And you can see it already. They're, lowering prescription drug prices. All of this stuff has no basis in economic reality, but
just the win votes.
But it's to win votes. But the scary facts are this. It gets worse every time I give this because I get updated stats. 74% of Americans can't identify the 3 branches of government. 53% of Americans don't even know what the electoral college is. Only 40% could identify who the vice president is. So people can be online like, this guy had a great policy debate. Trump, Elon Musk, right? The Trump, Elon Musk thing I thought was whatever. The content was a joke, but I'm kind of like, guys, FDR had fireside chats with 60 to 80 million people when we only had a population of 126 million people. So the fact that he had 1 million people on a stream, like if there are going to be 160 million people that vote, who cares? Like this isn't moving the needle. It's these get out the vote that are going after the no to low information voters that drive the vote total. I think one of the reasons Trump won in 2016 is because he had Peter Thiel and he had Palantir on his side, and he didn't in 2020. So that Palantir's help actually bridged the gap between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. So the really interesting thing is what's going to happen with this election. Is Palantir going to help? Because if he doesn't close that gap, he'll lose no matter what, and it'll be a dramatic loss because the Republican Party has actually gotten worse. We were supposed to have a red wave in 2022, even after all of the controversy and everything in 2020. There was no red wave. That is a function of the database, the AI, and the get out the vote apparatus that the Republicans have. That is a disadvantage. As to the JD Vance thing, I look at it this as all of these things are manufactured polarity. Right? They're building towards a one world government technocracy where scientists and engineers make all of the decisions for us. And there's a social credit system that they're working on that. And the way they do that is one manufactured polarity at a time. They get us divided into these 50-50 battles that never get resolved, right? It's going to be about bathrooms one day. It's going to be about this. And you'll know we never resolve them, right? We just go from one dopamine hit to another, one divided thing, and then we move on and we forget about it. It's like people have almost forgotten about the fact that there was an assassination attempt a few weeks ago. That's like moved out of the news cycle. That's like, all right, give me more. What's the new thing? But the ultimate battle here to me is the big polarity contest, and the big contest is technocracy versus technocracy. This is where I actually answered the question you posed, which is that you have the PayPal mafia, which is Thiel and Musk and JD Vance, and they happen to be this time around pushing on the Republican side. They're using the Republican side as their vehicle to push their technocracy, to get their systems implemented, to get their cronyism in place, right? Thiel's already implanted with Palantir. Even when you listen to the space with Musk and Trump, well, what is Musk basically asking for? He's asking, well, we should do these moonshot projects. We should do, which happen to be all, his projects, right? He's lining this up to push technocracy from the right. And then you have Microsoft and OpenAI and the others pushing from the left. But in the end, we're going to get technocracy one way or the other. So you're just picking which technocratic overlord are you going to get? Are you going to get the PayPal mafia? You're going to get Microsoft and OpenAI. That's all the meta thing is about. Which, by the way, the answer to all of that is the same: opt out and use privacy coins, because we don't want to be a part of the X payments WeChat clone that he's building ultimately. I mean, this is the only game in town right now, but X is going to turn into Musk said he wanted it to be WeChat. Well, WeChat is like the basis of the social credit system in China. So once they layer payments on here, and we've got all of the identification for payouts and everything else, like this is this dystopian platform. So I think that Thiel is pushing the technocratic agenda through JD Vance, and that the Thiel is actually driving a lot of the ship here.
Where do you think he ends up standing on privacy coins and things like Monero? I mean, do they, straight up try to ban those things? I mean, it goes against their ideology, right? At the same, he's a libertarian that runs a company that offers surveillance tools to the U.S. government. He has this face of being the ultimate libertarian, but he's providing, surveillance technology to the government. Where does he come down on privacy tools, cryptos?
I used to think he was a libertarian. I do not think he's a libertarian. I don't think in any way you could define him as a libertarian now. And I used to think that because he used to say he was a libertarian before he even got involved in politics. But I don't know how backing a company that is using surveillance technology to try to predict pre-crimes, right? Like this is I'm sorry, that's about as far off as you can get. So, and by the way, there's some other disturbing personality traits about him. Like, for instance, the fact that he bankrolled privately Hulk Hogan's lawsuit to get Gawker shut down because he was pissed off that he had been exposed for being gay. And so he did this, demonstrated a willingness and ability to be completely passive aggressive in a profound way. So he's very Machiavellian, and he seems willing to skirt way outside of any set of libertarian principles that you and I know. And I caught glimmers of his Joe Rogan thing yesterday, and he said, well, if crypto was libertarian, AI is communist in structure. But he didn't necessarily say, well, crypto is libertarian and therefore I like crypto. So I didn't hear him make a comment on that. But here's what worries me. What Trump said was, in the first 100 days, he's going to pass crypto legislation to provide clear rules of the road. Well, so the Loomis is the one that is the most advanced, obviously, in developing what these proposals are. So I don't see any reason to believe that. Who's the pro-privacy person? I do not know of a pro-privacy person that is actually advising Trump. Now, I talked to Vivek, and Vivek has read my book, and actually I helped push Vivek to push Trump on the CBDC issue. But I don't think Vivek is a privacy coin guy either. In fact, Vivek read my book, and he said he liked the first half. He didn't like the second half. Well, the second half was use alternative assets. You know, his plan was, we're gonna save the dollar and we're gonna have sound money. I mean, that was his position, and we got into it a little bit and ran out of time, but Vivek is not a privacy coin guy. So then who is advising him? Okay, well, let's now who are we talking about? The Winklevoss twins? And I've been trolling the Winklevoss twins hard, because if you followed any of this, what they did to Charlie Shrem, I mean, they were like hostile. They were happy about the fact that Charlie Shrem was, doing jail time. I mean, they were working with Ben Lawsky in New York to get a bit license. And then you follow their pat. People should look at this. So there's this Fair Shake PAC that has like $200 million, right? So you'll see people online like, oh yeah, $200 million pro crypto PAC. This is great. Finally, we're going to have a voice at the table. I think the Winklevoss twins put in 40 million. It's Andreessen Horowitz. It's all a bunch of VCs, all a bunch of Silicon Valley guys. What was the first race that they put money into and won? It was to get Adam Schiff to win the U.S. Senate primary in California. So their first contribution to crypto is Adam Schiff. So if you are a privacy person or a liberty person, I can tell you right now, Adam Schiff is not somebody that you would support. So they obviously have attention. Now, at the same time, and by the way, this is something I don't know the answer to, but I just saw that the Winklevoss twins invested in some Zcash related project. Okay. And I haven't followed all I need to dig into that to understand what that is. So on the one hand, you could say, hey, they just invested in Zcash, and if they have Trump's ear, then maybe the policy will end up being pro privacy coin. But then I look at it and I look at the Winklevoss twins' history with all this stuff, and they certainly don't seem to be ideologically aligned with liberty. So maybe they're going to taint Zcash. So I actually want to, if anybody knows, I'm going to investigate that more. That's on my list of things to research. But I guess at the end of the day, I don't know of anybody that's advising Trump that's pro-privacy, and Cynthia Loomis is anti-privacy explicitly.
Yeah, and the closest thing we got to pro-privacy are people that are backing Zcash and ignoring Monero for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
Aaron, man, thank you so much. So much information. I love the way you just have your ear to the ground on all this, and you're very good at conveying all this information and seeing where the cronyism and hypocrisy is.
I appreciate it. It's great. It's always great to come on, and I'm really looking forward to Mexico City. I'm very excited about this event. It's going to be great. I'm going to meet people that I've been talking to. I've never met the Zano guys in person, right? So
you're gonna have good quality time down there, FaceTime with them and a bunch of other liberty loving, intelligent people. Yeah, I have to say we attract a good crowd. A lot of that is that the Monero devs, and it's a very good crowd that is principled, right, and sticks to the principles. So it's nice. You're going to appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Stick around if you can. Yep. I would like to move on because we're about 2 hours in already, which is good. No complaints.
That's the shut off. I know for StreamYard too. So.
No. We're gonna keep going. We usually go like 4 hours. So stick around if you can. We're gonna bring up Tux. Should we bring up the viewers on stage, if anybody wants to like quickly do a Q&A with Aaron, maybe they got some questions before we move on to news. Aaron, would that be cool? Do you want to answer some questions if we bring
Sure,
people
absolutely.
up?
Always.
Tux, are you there? I don't
Yep.
know if he yeah, maybe we'll do that just so Aaron can stick around a little bit and answer questions before we move on to the news.
All right, that'll be good. I'll run the
All right,
viewers
cool.
on stage.
Awesome.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
All right, guys, posting the StreamYard link into the chat. If you're in the backstage, let me know if you want to come up.
Yeah, jump up, ask Aaron a question. We got 300 in live viewers on X, 34 on YouTube. This is good. Like and share.
I've had a question for Aaron for years now, which is, maybe about a year, but I think pretty much everybody who watches this show, we all agree that there's no political solution, at least in a federal sense. And I'm 100% all in with you that there is no hope for like a federal political solution at all. I think the only chance we had in my living memory was probably the Ron Paul revolution, and we all saw what happened with that. But I was wondering how you felt about like local or even state movements like the Free State Project. I know you've chimed in a lot about that. My position was I thought that it actually went too big too fast. Like the Free Counties Project would have been a better starting point, in my opinion. But I was wondering, what's your position on things that can be done as far as politically at a very microcosmic and local level? Because it's my take that there's a lot of juice to be squeezed in that place. What do you think?
So I spent a lot of time on that. In fact, that's where I actually spent most of my time was actually at the local level in New Hampshire. So I was actually the chair of the Free State Project for a while. I've been here for almost 16 years and run a number of organizations. My wife did as well. She ran a group called the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which is the dominant liberty group in New Hampshire. So she got probably 200 people elected while she was chair. And what I'll say is, so I got involved in this at the state level, and in part, I wanted to stop Obamacare Medicaid expansion, and it turns out the Republicans were the ones that ended up passing it. So if I go back and look at where we were 10 years ago versus where we are today, and as much as I say this, I love New Hampshire. New Hampshire is the best state, and you should move here. But you should move here because there are merchants that you can trade with using crypto and gold backs, because there's a community of like-minded people that you can interact with outside of the system. But even with Republican majorities at the state level, the percentage of the federal budget, the percentage of the New Hampshire budget that comes from the federal government has surged. The control of the federal government has surged. Even though we're relatively better than other states, the federal government has still creeped up in terms of its impact. And this is why I got to where I am on focusing on CBDCs, which is if we don't stop CBDCs are going to trump whatever's going on at the local level, because you're going to have centralized programmable control over your money, which is control over your behavior regardless of where you're located.
Can I ask you a question though about that creep real quick, just to dive a little deeper?
Yeah.
So do you think that okay, so yes, there is creep, and there's creep at every state, but do you think New Hampshire was effective at slowing that creep with the Free State Project and other like sub projects? And then the other question is, do you think it has kind of that art of war effect of, because the feds have to work so much harder and put so much more resources into it, that it's almost like defending a fortification versus like being wide open for invasion sort of thing? I've wanted to ask you about just that whole concept in general for quite some time now.
So my view on it is that, and this is just where I came out on, and then I've waffled back and forth because I was going to get back into it on a local basis, because I'm actually working with Citizens for Sound Money, which promotes gold and silver as legal tender at the state level. So on the one hand, what I'm saying is it's a little bit hypocritical because I actually keep on going back and forth myself. So I'm like, I know the federal government's not it, but I feel like we need to, it's kind of like if you put your attention on hedging on something that you don't want, and everybody's putting 30% of their attention on something that they don't want, you're going to end up getting that. So I'm a big believer in putting 100% of my attention into the thing that I want and trying to kind of move it that way. Has it helped? It only has helped. I said this analogy about the presidential election where I said, I think it's better if Harris wins the presidency, but the Republicans win the Senate, because it will finally demoralize people enough that they'll realize that they should have never banked on Trump to fix it, because no president could actually fix the structure of the thing anyway. But finally, they'll be demoralized enough to start putting their attention on alternative solutions. And it's the same at the state level. So at what point do you go from what I call slow fail, right? So the political strategy is just to fail at a slower rate. Failing at a slower rate is only good if you're using the time to develop an alternative solution. But if you're failing slowly, but then you're buying into the fact that the slow fail itself is the strategy moving forward, then you'd be better off collapsing faster so that you can rip the Band-Aid off. So that's kind of my answer. So I guess it's good that we have it here if it's slowing things down, but provided that people understand that it is just slowing things down to something else. Now, I actually believe in secession. So ultimately, I think that if we could actually get to secession out of this, then that is actually the way to go. And if you secede, then what you should be talking about in parallel is, okay, well, what would a New Hampshire look like from first principles if it seceded? And I think that first principle conversation needs to be happening in general. And I've actually tried to get that conversation going, and it's not something people have been interested in, but it's been 250 years since this country was founded. It was founded on a set of foundational principles that were then turned into, like, there were debates, the Federalist Papers, all of this stuff going on back and forth. And then that was codified into the Constitution in the same way that the white paper outlines the principles. And then the code itself is essentially kind of the Constitution, if you want to make a parallel structure. And I would say, have we learned anything about the nature of man and the nature of government in 250 years that might cause us to from first principles, redesign how it works?
So I have one more question on the same topic. I've been waiting a long time to. Okay, so I think your opinion is falling in line a lot with other people from this community, from what I've gathered, that like pretty much any political solution is kind of a waste of time. But there is one thing that I think is very interesting, which is, are you aware of how Maine had passed, for example, the amendment to the right to put what you want in your body? I forget what they call it, but there's like an actual constitutional amendment about like growing your own food and eating what you want and taking whatever medicines you want or whatever. I wonder if at least the pretext of something like an amendment protecting something is a strong enough bulwark to and then the other thing is it would take less, like, let's say, political energy to get it in place and then leave it there, as opposed to constantly making the fight. So would you comment on that idea of like, is that maybe one thing that is worthy of pursuit or not?
It depends on it all depends on how the bills are drafted. And I guess part of so having elected all these candidates and knowing all of these people for a long time, I've never seen a situation where people have actually retained their principles after getting elected. And that has happened I just have empirical evidence for over a decade doing that. So the issue that I have
is
well, I can tell you what often happens. What happens is, and it's almost a common process. You'll actually hear it's like, well, in order to get into power, to elevate into a leadership role, you have to compromise. And then what you start telling yourself is, well, once I get into control, once I get into power, then I'll change things. But what happens is you get corrupted by the process. And so you make all these alliances with people basically to try to get into power. But then by the time you get there, your power is based on those compromises. And so there's a tendency to not then break break what got you into that position. And then you hear the same language about the rationalization of it, which is, well, this is just how the game is played, right? People be like, well, this is the adult way to do it. This is just, this is the way the game is played, and I know how the game is played, and I could talk about some of my activism, but I primaried 9 state senators, and then I ran for the United States Senate and cost Kelly Ayotte her seat intentionally because she was messing with state politics to get reelected. And so I'm like, okay, if you're going to screw with the state, then for your personal federal race, then I'll run as an independent to cost you the race. And it did. It was the most expensive per capita U.S. Senate race. So you can play the game differently. But if you get into this mindset of, oh, I'm going to play the game as the game is played, then you end up kind of selling out. And so that has happened over and over again. And so I've seen that so much. Or that, and another common thing is you'll work on these small bills, but then the big multi-billion-dollar bills that are the federal government encroaching on the state, people don't even try to challenge those things. And so what's actually going on is the state is losing its solvency, it's losing its sovereignty, and you're focusing on these little Pyrrhic victories, these little small wins that in the grand scheme of things, you end up with net tyranny. But you get a few things that are your pet projects along the way. And this is just what I've seen happen. And it's like we've got a state rep that's been pro crypto, but he just came out with an article talking about the Bitcoin strategic supporting the Bitcoin strategic reserve. And then, wanting to push the state to do this. And this is a free stater that was supposed to be the crypto liberty guy. In fact, I will tell you, I was thinking about getting back in politics, specifically in New Hampshire, to work on legislation around privacy coins, around anti-CBDC, around the great taking, making gold and silver legal tender. And then when I saw that, I'm like, all right, that's it. We're just, if we're going to go now, Bitcoin strategic reserve, we're going to go this complete crony way, and these people are supposed to be the top liberty people, then it's over. And it's a waste of time. So I'm actually not getting back in. This is why I say when I waffle on this, I'm waffling on this because I was actually considering getting back in. And then just within the last 2 weeks, I've seen what the people that are supposed to be at the forefront of liberty are doing. And it's a lost cause. So, again, I guess there is a way where it could be effective, but I've not seen it yet. And there's also a tendency for people to focus on the state house instead of the state Senate. And it turns out it's just like with Congress, the big decisions end up being made by the Senate. So you have a whole bunch of people yapping and running around like the Boberts of the world, and people getting a lot of media attention and making a lot of noise. But at the end of the day, the bad legislation is what wins. And I have seen that paralleled at the state level. Now, at the local level, I went to the Red Pill Expo, which was great. And I got to meet G. Edward Griffin, and he has a thing that he's doing called Red Pill University. And the whole idea behind this is to do a local approach and to build a network of people that are committed to a set of foundational principles at the local level. I mean, and I'm not opposed to that idea, but I will say of all of the political activism I've done, the most vile and intense thing I've ever done is run for school board. I mean, and I ran for president of the United States, and the worst, I'm not even kidding. I had 2% of, I lived in a town of 20,000 people. We had 278 people in a Facebook group that were dedicated to making sure that I lost, committing election fraud. Somebody actually printed out the stuff that was in the group. I had like all kinds of stuff happen. And what you learn at the local level is, in particular, in a lot of places in small towns, the largest employer is the school system itself. So the ability to make change when you're going up against a teachers union is tough because they have millions of dollars and they're trying to protect something. So the ability to get citizens to come in and actually change a school board where you win enough seats and sustain enough seats over time to actually change the school board, that is really difficult because it's really expensive. And the question is for the individual involved, what's the payoff, right? So and so it's amazing how much these the teachers unions actually end up dominating the vote, the get out the vote effort for these local elections. And then that also then affects town council and the other seats. So you end up having it's brutal. It is a truly brutal thing. I'm not saying it's not worth doing, but I'm saying if you're going to do it, understand it's so much harder than you think. It's even harder than state level politics because of what's the economic interests that are actually entrenched at the state level and the machine that they have that makes it difficult because nobody's built a get out the vote. There's no pro-liberty get out the vote apparatus for the town council. There's no pro-liberty get out the vote apparatus for school board. right? Those
Get out of voting. That's our motto. Get out of voting.
Yeah. No, I've seen it here, even in New Hampshire, where people are like, well, we lost this because only 80 people came out and voted. Like, there were a bunch of people that made a bunch of noise, did a bunch of signs, and people just don't go out and vote. It's March. Yeah, there's low turnout. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that the voters are generally pretty unengaged and low information. And so it's a really hard barrier. But this is why I ended up where I was, because if we don't stop the CBDC thing, I don't think any of this matters at all. So that's why I've actually laser focused on this. But even if we stop CBDCs, this isn't a solution. This is just preventing global technocracy. We do need to have a much bigger chat about what we're actually going to do. And this is one of the problems that we have. So if you're liberty minded, then anything is possible, right? What 8 billion people can do through voluntary interaction is infinite in terms of possibility. And so it's hard for people to think abstractly, because our public school indoctrination centers don't want us to think abstractly. They try to teach us how to think concretely, and they try to actually program what it is that we think. So it's hard to sell the message of liberty, because it requires people think abstractly and think about the unknown. Whereas the technocrats push out 15-minute cities. They have glossy brochures, right? Here's the one utopian vision we have. But when you're a liberty person, you can't have a utopian position, because by nature, liberty is an individual thing, where how can you predict the infinite? How can you predict the combinations of decisions people are going to make if they have freedom? But it's harder to sell abstract than it is concrete.
Unless somebody else has a question, I could, but I'm sure somebody else has a question. But
let's see if anybody else wants to jump in, and then we'll move on with the news. We get a couple more questions.
I have a question. Other people up here. Go ahead, Shortwave.
So, just real quickly, can I get your books anywhere except Amazon or in print? Because I'm legally blind, and so I can't not read regular print books. And the only audio books or accessible ways I can see of getting your books is on Amazon, and I don't have one of those.
I can probably send you files. I can probably just send you the files that we used for Amazon. I've got to think of how. I'm trying to remember how that worked. I had to do it chapter by chapter, but just reach out to me after this, and let me see if I can get you the files that I'd uploaded to Amazon.
Sure, if I can figure out how to do that. But yeah, because as I said, I don't have Twitter or anything like that.
Okay. How could I get a hold of you?
Put it in the private chat.
Yeah, I'll put my email address in the private chat. How's that?
Perfect.
I had a question about the election, Trump and all that. So my thinking right now actually is maybe a little bit different than yours. I think that it's more likely that the assassination was kind of a faked WWF thing, where real people died. Anyways, I figure they wouldn't do that unless they really wanted to elect Trump. And then have him sort of oversee the next big crisis. But on the counterpoint of that, if Kamala wins, it's hard for me to believe that the nation would actually elect this chick. And I wonder about the potential for civil war, or a staged, not a fake civil war, but a managed civil war where Trump leads. Trump is supposed to be the leader of the opposition forces or something like that. Do you see any potential for that, or what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, the whole. After watching people comply with COVID tyranny, I guess I keep on asking myself, will people stand up for anything? Really, what is the barrier? I mean, if she wins, are people really going to protest? And so I think there may be a manufactured civil war. And again, but the whole point of this is to move towards global government and a global technocracy. I mean, this is actually going on. What's interesting is you look at the COVID situation and you'd think, oh, well, based on what we know, we probably shouldn't have pushed these vaccines. I mean, there's no way looking back on it, you can say that was honestly a good idea. Yet the World Health Organization is developing pandemic alliances that will erode national sovereignty and will actually put us in a position where they could declare a climate crisis as a health emergency through the WHO Pandemic Alliance, and use that to actually further erode sovereignty and push us more towards one government. So I think either way, whether it's Trump or whether it's Harris, it's going to be 50-50 divided, but does it turn into a civil war, or does it just turn into one more manufactured thing where we lose that much more in terms of surveillance and privacy and more rights, which has been going on for decades and really ramped up after 9/11.
I just want to thank who we got here. Prying Lantis tip $5. Great talk, guys. We will continue to fight for freedom. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, all tips that are sent through to xmrchat.com/Monerotalk will go towards basically improving xmrchat.com. So greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we want to do the news, or should I throw out another question? Maybe I could ask.
No, let's move on to the news. Otherwise, this will be one of those super long days. If Aaron wants to stick around, he can. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much more of his time.
I did see somebody ask something about Zano, but I can't even see that question now. It was a long
Yeah,
time
sure.
ago.
Let me bring that up. Hold up. I did see that. Hi, Aaron. Quick question on Zano. I support your view on the relevance of privacy tokens. Do you believe this will reflect on the cost of the token and project?
This isn't Bitcoin. You're in the wrong place.
Nah.
I mean, I hope it spurs use. I hope it spurs people downloading wallets and trying using it. Do I think it will increase price? I mean, I think Zano has such a low market cap. I honestly, I'm trying to buy more, so it's one of those things, kind of a bad case scenario where it's I just wrote this Brownstone article, and I reference Monero and I reference Zano, and it's like, when this stuff gets out, more people look into it. I mean, it's bound to help the price at some level, but the purpose is to, I hope what happens instead is people actually start using it, and when they start using it, then the price increases. So I hope this ends up being a utility driven price increase as opposed to a hype based pump and dump type of thing. So I'm not, I don't really engage in that or making any predictions about price or even focusing on that. I'm more focused on getting the word out and getting people using these things.
Very good, very good. And Mondetta tipped 25 cents. Check this out. More local exchange accepting Monero without KYC. And then he references xmrbazaar.com listings. I don't know what those links are. I got to check that out. So maybe it's business listings on XMR Bazaar for Monero accepting local exchanges. Very cool.
All right, guys. I guess we're going to go ahead and move into the news. Thank you so much, Aaron Day, for coming on and talking with us and taking some questions. Feel free to stick around if you'd like, if you have time.
Sure.
Once again, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. I enjoy it. This is I love that. This is my crowd. I've been searching for a while.
Thank you, man. Greatly appreciate it. Very excited to hang out with you in person at Monerotopia in November. Please continue to spread the word to your tribe, because I know you have a large audience. So we appreciate you getting the word out on everything. Thank you, man.
Will do.
All right, yeah, let's move it on along. Aaron, obviously you're welcome to stay if you got to go. We understand, but yeah, let's move on with the news. Tux.
All right, let's do it.
Cheers.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Tony.
Tony, are you there? Hello.
Wait, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Okay.
Now we can hear
Hey
you.
guys, happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend, man.
Today's a marathon. It's a good show.
It is. Well, actually, we're only at 2 hours and 23. We've I think we average about 4 hours these days, so we're doing pretty good. We're on track. We're on track for a typical show.
Yeah. Are you still in Italy right now?
I am. I'm still in Sicily. We got stuck
wow.
here a couple extra days because of the volcano erupting. Yeah, taking full advantage of it. It's been fantastic.
Oh wow. Well, I kind of hope that it's going to keep erupting for another week.
I know. But my fiat job isn't really loving it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, take it away. Take it away with the news.
Okay. So let's get into this week's news. The first thing, Forbes posted an article on Monero saying that almost no one uses it. And I'm going to read off a quote from the article. They said, "One thing is clear. 8 years in, few people actually use Zcash." So they kind of compared. It was about Zoco, and then they talked about Zcash and Monero. But yeah, so Zcash, the protocol earns about $30 a day in fees and processes just 3 transactions a minute. Its total fee revenue of 2023 was only $14,000. It's not alone in its struggles. As Forbes pointed out in March, numerous billion-dollar crypto zombies roam the digital landscape. Blockchain zombie Monero, another privacy coin developed in 2014, has a 2.7 billion market cap, but like Zcash, almost no one uses it or pays fees. So, yeah, according to Forbes, Monero is a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar privacy coin that nobody uses it. And they also said that the big question facing Zcash and others is whether there is enough demand for privacy coins in the first place. So, maybe they're talking about Forbes themselves and the people working out there. And probably there's no demand there for privacy coins, but if you get outside the bubble, there is a high demand.
I don't know. The live stream right now is showing 550 live views, 382 on X and 31 on YouTube. So we do exist. We are real, and we're growing.
And actually, that's a good time to segue into Monerotopia for just a second. So, guys, if you haven't bought your tickets yet, you can go on the website, click on Buy Ticket, and you can buy VIP. So let's say that, which I highly recommend, because then you get to go to the dinner with the speakers and everything. So that's a really amazing time. Then if you go to Add to Cart, so then you go to View Cart with code Tony24, you're gonna get percentage off your Monerotopia ticket. So go ahead and use Tony24, and you're gonna get your discount for the tickets in case you haven't yet. Okay, so now let's go back to CipherTrace. So CipherTrace, they had an article originally posted in 2020, August 31st, which has disappeared. They claimed that they could track Monero, and now it just disappeared. Interestingly enough, is that MasterCard actually owns CipherTrace. And for people watching the show, I'll pull up a picture. I've actually seen this ad of MasterCard and CipherTrace when I was in the airport last, which caught my attention. It was interesting. So yeah, they had an article claimed that they had Monero tracing tools. And they were saying how with 45% of darknet markets now using Monero, that was 4 years ago, probably way more now. The second favorite cryptocurrency of choice among criminals, just behind Bitcoin, law enforcement interest in Monero tracing has soared. So, made a bunch of claims, but they no longer mention Monero tracking because they couldn't in the first place anyway. So, that is interesting.
As Moneroers predicted. Long time ago.
Yeah. Now, Binance has extended XMR withdrawals until 1st of September. So what I would want to say here is just if you have any Monero on exchanges and centralized exchanges, take it off. Don't use them. There's other ways of getting your Monero. But if you have any in Binance, you have until the 1st of September to withdraw it. Right now, you can't buy anymore in Binance, and after September 1st, you will not be able to withdraw your Monero, Bitcoin Gold, or mobile coin. So just be careful with that, and just be careful in general when you use centralized exchanges, because in the past, Binance had numerous episodes in which you just couldn't withdraw, like all of a sudden, like you wanted to withdraw your Monero, take it off, and you just couldn't, which is a little bit scary. So be safe, and just I would advise that you just wouldn't use them. The next thing is really, really cool. So this is a heat map. We have a community member, Friendly Neighborhood Lebanon, and he made a Kuno to fund a project that he's working on. He wants to make, so KKPay had a heat map a while back for all businesses except Monero, and he said it just got sunset. and he's working on a local heat map for business, accepting Monero in Lebanon, MENA, then EU, and the US. And actually, we have Doug in the comments, and he said, "How about adding the businesses to the XMR Bazaar biz listing map?" It's already got traction. So honestly, that'll be awesome if we can implement the heat map into XMR Bazaar and really have it nice so people can just go.
I have no idea what this heat map is he's talking about. I don't think Cake ever had a business heat map.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's talking like the business listings we have on X, right? Is that what he's describing?
I'm not sure. I don't remember a heat map. I just
I reached out to him if he should we'll I don't know. I'd fund a Kuno for him to go try to grow the XMR Bazaar business listings. That'd be something I'd be behind for sure.
Yeah, no, yes, for sure. That'll be awesome, because then you can just look around and see who's accepting Monero. Maybe you'll go to a store that you haven't even thought about, and you just go in there because they're accepting Monero, and you're actually going to purchase stuff. So, yeah, if this gets implemented into XMR Bazaar, or if you guys work together, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we already have the heat map. I think if what he's talking about, we already have a quote unquote heat map on there. It's a map that shows all the local business listings. That's how I discovered the Monero accepting grocery store in New York City. Shortwave tip, 25 cents. XMR Bazaar now has 565 total listings. Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Shortwave has been our power user for sure. I think he's accomplished the most trades, like sales, on XMR Bazaar, which is very nice.
Yeah, he's amazing. Just it must be so, because he's blind. So like, given his condition, he does so much, and he knows so much. Like, it's really inspiring, to be honest. Like when he wanted the PDFs for the books, because he can read. It's really inspiring. So that's amazing.
Very true. Shortwave, we love you, man.
Yeah, man, we love you, man. Shout out to Shortwave. Now let's talk about this. Is an interesting post. So Politico posted on X, them lawmakers want to wait until after Harris wins to set policy agenda. Yeah, so let's wait until they get elected, and then we'll show you what what we want to do. But I mean, you can just make your promises now, and you can break them later. Or make a couple now. Yeah, but that is very, very sketchy and very, very frightening statement. To wait until you get elected and then, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Done. Wow. Okay, this one is really interesting too. So Marathon has just begun stamping each Bitcoin block it mines with "Made in USA." This move raises concerns about Bitcoin's fungibility. When certain coins can be identified and traced back to specific sources, it compromises their interchangeability. So now you'll be able to look at Bitcoin blocks and with time, oh, this is made in USA. Oh, this is made in China. Okay, maybe I don't want this one because it's gonna get flagged in this region of the world. Or, yeah, so it's really sad that people don't wake up to how important fungibility is in a currency that you're gonna use. And this is really serious. Like, your coins could be tainted, just or blacklisted just because they have a made in whatever country it's from. Yeah, so that's crazy. But obviously in Monero we don't have this problem. So moving on, XMR Street launched a campaign on August 16th to get HYC, CMS, and Monero Times account released from permanent suspension, and he tagged Elon Musk. Then Drug Dial Me, or Guess Who's Back, tagged Elon as well, and X to unsuspend both of those accounts, because they did a lot for Monero and they were really active. So hopefully that's going to happen eventually. Hopefully we can get their attention. Now this guy, Super Testnet, he got quite a bit of traction on his post. He posted basically, it was an image showing the differences between Monero and Lightning. So the first thing, publishes all transactions by default. I'm going to read Monero first, and then I'll go into Lightning. So Monero publishes all transactions by default. Yes. Encrypts the sender. No. This is all according to him. Okay. Encrypts the recipient. No. Encrypts the full amount. No. Encrypts peer-to-peer traffic. No. Which, that's crazy. Those are crazy claims, obviously. Then we go into Lightning, and he said publishes all transactions by default. No. Encrypts the sender, encrypts the recipient, encrypts the full amount, encrypts peer-to-peer traffic. Yes, for Lightning. And obviously people responded to this because it's just they're just lies. So Untraceable said Lightning nodes share data with government and chain analytics. Yes. Difficult or not possible to send amounts over $1,000. Yes. Centralizing network design. Yes. Most user funds not self-custodially held. Yes. Is the second layer requiring potentially costly opening/closing channels on chain? Yes. Yeah, so he replied back, body, then also Seth. So let's go into Seth response. He said, somehow I respected this guy in the past, but it's become crystal clear from his disingenuous campaign that wholly ignores Lightning's privacy issues and makes Monero privacy issues that he has some ulterior motive to benefit here. I spent 1.5 hours on a call with this guy where he got every aspect of this explained to him, and he proceeded to ignore all of it and keep lying for internet clout. I'll publish that debate later today.
I actually reached out to him to try to get him to come to Monerotopia as a speaker. And he was very interested, and I think he would have done it, but it overlaps with a Bitcoin conference in El Salvador. It's like, I would have loved to have him. It's nice to have I don't know, a skeptic, the ultimate skeptic, or I don't know, just somebody to represent the other side, even if he's exaggerating a lot of things. It leads to some good discussion, but he's been dishonest in his approach.
Yeah, he almost seems like a troll, but
yeah, I haven't fully tuned in. Yeah, Tux, maybe you fully tuned in. I haven't really followed it. I know Body had a good conversation with him, and I think
Body did. Seth, if you scroll down on that thread,
Mhm.
Tony,
Yes.
if you just scroll down, there's there it is. There's an opt-out episode that Seth hosted between Luke Parker and Super Testnet. And Luke does a good job at just explaining Monero's features, of course, and why simply saying something's not encrypted doesn't really mean anything. Like Super Testnet keeps trying to make out to be, where his definition of encryption and how something's not private if it's not encrypted in his specific definition means it's not private. And Luke kind of debates him on that. And it's just kind of weird. Like, he almost seems like a troll, but at the same time, he seems very sincere in his arguments and his viewpoint. And there was a really funny comment somewhere on that thread that somebody was saying, don't mistake autistic fixation for malice, which is kind of true. Yeah,
Could be as
just
simple
an
as
interesting
that. Yeah, I haven't really even heard him speak or listen to. I just saw the tweets, but yeah, we invited him to Monerotopia, but he won't be able to attend. But if you guys know another good skeptic to have, let us know. We had Peter Todd last year. He kind of played that role. So looking for somebody to replace Peter Todd this year. Let's get Peter Todd again, but I think it'd be good to get somebody to play that role.
It's good to have people with opposing views as long as they make some sense. But when you're just lying,
yeah, it's gotten absurd.
He's being like incredibly misleading with this picture, and there's some really funny. If you here, I'll send one in a little bit.
He's ignoring reality, is what he's saying. So it's like he's pointing out things that may factually be true on their own, but ignoring the larger picture and reality of what the situation is.
Also, just to add, I love the fact check from X on the post.
The community note is really hilarious.
Yeah, who wrote that? That's great.
Yeah, that's yeah. So the fact check is saying this is misleading. Monero hides amounts via confidential transactions, hides the sender and recipient with ring signatures and self addresses, and obscures peer-to-peer traffic via Dandelion++. So
yeah. Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of this these days of attacks, social attacks, kind of against Monero from the Bitcoin tribe, who are fearful of the fact that Bitcoin is failing as digital cash.
I got so I don't have a signal on my.
Oh, you hear me? Send it directly in the private chat.
Yes, if you can. Yeah. Okay, give me. It's actually really funny.
It's a funny response.
No, it is really funny actually. So yeah. Okay, thank you.
What is this?
It's really funny. Give me 1 second.
I will mention Xanobull since he tipped. Xanobull tipped 50 cents. If Xano remains with a proof of work / proof of stake hybrid system, I want to buy. All right. Shilling Xano for your 50 cents. We'll take it.
So Untraceable posted a picture, and on the left side you have Rolex, and on the right side you have a frog watch. And they both tell time, but one isn't affordable and one isn't a frog.
The frog watch is superior.
Clearly.
Oh, that's so funny. But moving on. So we have Freknix. I think that's how you say his name. Blockchain dev, privacy advocate. So he actually gifted to someone's birthday. He said, "Oh, am I the coolest or lamest uncle ever?" And there's a picture of a birthday card saying "Happy 15th birthday." To receive your birthday gift, send them a Monero wallet and text me your wallet address. And then he gave him a bunch of different websites, Monero.com, getmonero.org. So that's an amazing gift from your uncle to get Monero. So that's really awesome.
He's
so he's definitely the coolest uncle ever, not the lamest.
Unfortunately, I have a few family relatives that have lost quite a bit of Monero in the past from past similar presents.
The fishing expeditions.
Well, not real ones though. They don't appreciate what they're getting at the time. It is a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, it very much is. We deal with this all the time. Even though we have like 3 scary warnings that the users get when they set up a wallet on Cake Wallet, people just don't save it, and don't realize it until it's too late.
Exactly.
Yeah, happened to me too. So, happens quite
Laurestin is asking where's the best place to buy Monero. You could buy it right through Cake Wallet using one of the instant exchanges they have built in. Is a good way. So if you could obtain another crypto like Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or whatever it is, and then use that to swap it into Monero is one easy way. Obviously, selling goods or items for it is the ideal way. Participating in the Monero circular economy, go on xmrbazaar.com, create an account,
Yeah,
sell
looks like
something.
there might be some listings on there on XMR Bazaar for. I haven't checked a look at them yet. But yeah, if you're in Europe, if you're in like the specific European Economic Region, DFX is recommended because you can buy up to like 900 euros of XMR per 24 hours with no KYC. You have to use a bank account, but they don't have to do the actual KYC AML processing of like your ID or anything. So, and you can buy XMR with that. So I recommend that if you're in Europe.
No, he said he's in Liberland, California.
Kraken. You could use Kraken in California, right? I'm sure you can't use it here in New York, but in California,
you can use Kraken. They are full KYC, but that is an option if you want to buy a lot of Monero with USD very quickly.
Right. Yeah, if you want to obtain it without KYC, best ways to do that is obtain other crypto and swap it into Monero, or to sell things directly for Monero or trade cash for Monero, using things like xmrbazaar.com and other means. Very cool.
Yep. So moving on, we have the last 2 things for the week. This is really, really awesome. So 2 months ago, it was posted on Monero that a Monero stress test is coming. So to run a stress test node to improve Monero. That is since we had the suspected spam transactions and it showed that Monero nodes do not cope with high transaction volume as well as expected. So we had to conduct some tests, some stress net. So a testnet fork, the stress net, has been created to stress test a node and diagnose performance bottlenecks. You can participate, and the testing has begun, quite a while back, so on June 19th. But now I want to go back to a post from 8 days ago with updates on the stress nest so far. So testing has been successful, and plans are already in place to continue the network for at least another 2 months. While we have reached the end of the originally planned time frame, there's an enduring need for further testing. For anyone willing, your sustained or new participation is welcome. So you can actually partake in this. The stress test is resetting on August 10th. So a bit back now, but we're forking the test net. And the results are, as a result of testing, developers have produced a set of improvements. So there have been improvements over this already. These cover correctly recognizing blocks as valid during abnormal operations, increasing daemon performance during large transaction volumes, and discussing synchronization design. And there's a couple links that you can click on and read further into this about like one is a blockchain fixed stamp fails, causing all blocks to be permanently invalid on daemons, transaction pools, crypto node core. Largest block was almost 8 megabytes. Most transactions in a block is 4,909. Most transactions cleared in 30 consecutive blocks. 100,863 transactions. So there's a lot of information, and so yeah, this is going to be going on for the next 2 months. It's going to be extended, and it's really awesome that the community looked at what happened and they decided to take the matters into their hands and stress test it and actually, try to overcome it. This is very, very important for the future of Monero. Yeah, so this is positive news, and huge recognition to Rotnium, whose efforts have been crucial in starting, operating, and continuing this endeavor. So
Rotnium will be a speaker, remote speaker at Monerotopia. He was last year as well, and trying to arrange a Monero talk with him, so to learn more about this.
He does a lot of important stuff.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, if you haven't, you should definitely listen to Donald Trump's and Elon Musk full conversation. We talk about the assassination. It was live on Twitter just a couple of days ago.
I did not listen in yet. Was it good?
I listened halfway through. Really interesting. Like he talks, he was funny too. He talked about his relationship with Putin, and he said at one point that he told Putin a couple of things, to which Putin said, "No way," and Trump responded with "way." I thought that was really funny. And he talked about that they had a really good relationship during his presidency. He had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He was saying that the war in Ukraine wouldn't have happened if he was the president. Talks about Biden, Kamala, the assassination. They talked quite a bit about the assassination and what happened and everything. I listened halfway through, but I want to finish it today. It's really interesting. When I first saw it, I didn't think that it was real, like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and I just got a notification.
Yeah.
But it's quite like surreal to just hear Donald Trump live on a X space.
I've been really off the radar in a good way with everything because of being consistently. I mean, it's funny, because I'm still checking my phone. I'm doing a lot of I do work from here for my fiat job, but then I guess I'm just not on Twitter as much right now, which is good. Overall, I'm just not on my phones as much. I'm just
well, you're not missing out on much.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, but it gives you it kind of gives you a different perspective. It pulls you out of the matrix, so to speak, right? It's nice to disconnect like that. So yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to go back and watch it. Cypher Bliss tipped $4.99. Douglas buys groceries with Monero, and now we have XMR chat. A pivotal moment is near. Every time you use XMR, the matrix gets weaker. 100%, man. Thank you, XMR Bliss. Fantastic. We'll put that $5 towards growing xmrchat.com. Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, guys. So this was this week's news section. Again, if you haven't bought your Monerotopia tickets, go ahead. You can buy the regular ones. You can buy the VIP ones, which you get access to the dinner and a bunch of different stuff. And if you use 2024, you are going to get a discount. So go ahead and use it if you haven't yet. Hopefully, we're gonna see you there, and we'll see you next week for the news section.
Tony, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Tony.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everybody.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.
Shortwave Surfer tipped another 25 cents. Thank you, man. I lost a BTC seed in 2014 without much on it, thankfully. First and last time I ever lost a seed. It's always a hard lesson, no matter how much it is. Tux, what are we doing? I mean, should we get viewers back on stage here and let people chat it out?
It's up to you if you want to continue viewers on stage or not.
We can let them on. I'm if people want to talk a little bit, I'm gonna probably run. I think, did you say you had to go earlier today as well, or what's your
A little
situation?
bit, yeah.
We could let it run and they could close it out. Want to do that? See if anybody jumps up.
All right, let's do it.
Begrudgingly. All right.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Yeah, I'm totally ready to go enjoy my evening over here in Sicily. But yeah, if anybody wants to jump up, Alaska, we got Alaska Body again. Anybody that wanted to bring something up that didn't have a chance to, now is your time.
I got to bail pretty quick because it's berry season, which is a tight window in Alaska. But there was one thing that I thought is very interesting about Aaron Day that I thought was important to share with everybody, which is Aaron Day, Doug, yourself. I know that Tux works really hard on this too, but there are certain people that do a lot to try to improve Monero adoption. And some people are certainly a lot better than others. There are a lot of people out there that are social butterflies, but there's kind of a component that I think we should never forget, and it works even better if we're all constantly doing it at once, which is if you just go for 5 new consistent users being adopted a year. So if you figure you get like 20 people to adopt Monero and you can keep 20% of them trying actively to use it all year long. If you were to base something like that on, well, let's say there's 20,000 average transactions a day. And so let's say 5% of those people are aggressively pursuing every day an additional 5 users a year, like 5 power users, right? And then some people who are on the periphery and that now know how to use Monero on top of that. It would take less than 5 years to far more than double the transaction volumes and the use case of Monero. And your motivation should not be what I'm about to say, but it's important to remember that that would also pump the bags of people who are Monero holders, because the money velocity has an important impact on price. But then it kind of buries deep underground the idea that Monero is not being used, it's not being adopted. So people who are in the Monero community need to make a point to not just leave it to people like Doug or Aaron to do the adoption, because what can happen is they can adopt, let's say, 500 new power users a year. But if there aren't other people doing that work, trying to get people to accept Monero or willing to accept Monero, I'm sure everybody on this show is willing to accept it, so that may not be such an issue. But if there aren't other people doing some of that work outside of just the big names of Monero adoption people, then we're undermining the work that they do, because you need lots of smaller and bigger players trying to push the adoption on a personal level every day. And one of the things that Aaron has talked about in other locations is And I mean, Tux has actually watched me adopt Monero users before while we were on a call and some other things. When you're the one who's actually face to face helping somebody learn how to use Monero, showing them how easy it can be, you know, Cake Wallet is obviously like God tier usability, right? When you get somebody a Cake Wallet, when you make the personal sacrifice of a little bit of Monero.
Brother, what are you doing? Like they're like handing over the mic, and they're like, "Oh, viewers come on stage," and they're like, "Well, that's me. I'm Alaskan on, and I'm gonna talk and bloviate for go on and on and on." So get to the fucking point.
Yeah, we can't leave it to them to get the work done. Is what I'm saying.
You got Dickless Creamer coming in hot. What's going on, man?
Like a wildfire, man. So
I don't know. I was enjoying it.
I'm good. I'm glad. No, we're doing great things here on the stage. Actually, I just want to hear some from other people because there's a bunch of people on stage, and I saw some questions, and I really want to hear what they have to say.
Agreed. Go ahead and say what you want to say, man. You got the stage.
I've actually been questioning Seth for like, I don't know, not questioning, just like, you know, like I look at the guy and I see the person as like a human, and he's trying to figure out his path in life, and he's trying to see like, well, I'm here. I actually started doing some things with Monero, and then I'm starting to get like through Bitcoin. I'm going to try to make it work through Bitcoin, and he's working his way back. He's getting back now to the Cake Wallet. I think that this is his more natural talent. I think he's going to thrive. I think it's going to be a really good thing for him. And I don't have any doubts at all on him. I don't know. That's probably one of the bigger news. I mean, well, there's several things actually, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nice to see that Seth has naturally found his way. I wouldn't say back to Monero because I feel like he never really left, but he was obviously focused on the Bitcoin side of things. You know, I think it was a paycheck too, but nice to see that he is now, I guess, more directly involved with Monero. But I don't really know the full story. Tux, can you give us some insight into what's going on? So Seth is now working for Cake. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so Seth, he's leaving Foundation and he's joining Cake full time, officially beginning of September. He'll just help us with he'll do like some like operation stuff, I guess similar to what I do. But he's gonna also, because he has more knowledge in Bitcoin and Lightning stuff, he's gonna direct some of the Bitcoin and Lightning stuff that we have right now. But obviously, yeah, I see there's a lot of fighting from both sides on Seth. It seems like he gets crap from both the Bitcoin and Monero sides. And that's just what happens if you try to be a pretty neutral and unbiased person. But I think he tried to he tried to promote privacy on Bitcoin, but quickly became extremely disappointed and realized just how little people care about it and how not super possible it is. And there's some things that exist, of course, and things that are being pushed like silent payments, which Cake is the first to implement that. But yeah, happy to have him on because he's a great person and he has his foot in both communities. And he knows how to be more of like a peacemaker, and he's got good insight into just like crypto privacy in general, especially with Bitcoin. But of course, he's also been a big part of the Monero space and has done a lot of work for the Monero community in general, with outreach and all the guides he's made. So
I watched him on I think it was a Watchman Privacy podcast that came out in like June, and I just looked up Seth for privacy because I wanted to hear some of his talks and stuff like that, and came across this interview with him from like June, and it was after the whole Samurai thing, and he's just like, Bitcoin privacy died that week, like, and he just seemed really demoralized about it, and that I think probably had a decent amount to do with this whole switch back to the Monero, because he wanted Bitcoin privacy.
Whirlpool was the only real thing you could use on Bitcoin to get like any privacy. Now, obviously, paynims was the thing, and we've had arguments about paynims and all that stuff. But the big deal with privacy on Bitcoin is people using Whirlpool and Samurai. And then that effectively got shut down, and it got shut down before the developers released or finished their decentralized Whirlpool setup and protocol. So that was really a bad time for Bitcoin privacy.
Who else we got?
Yeah, anyone else has anything they want to say? Any questions?
One question is, what about pizza in Sicily? Is it better or worse than New York?
Shit, man, it's different. Like a New York slice is its own type. But the pizza is freaking amazing here. You get some good crispy, beautiful pizza.
So what's your one thing that you would think like, oh, it's better than New York?
What's that?
What in Sicily is better than New York City?
There's a lot of things better than New York, but overall the food 100% is better. I mean, the food here, and especially in this particular region of Sicily, is freaking amazing. You have Mount Etna over here, so you have the soil is really good, really healthy. So fruits and vegetables are amazing. The meats are amazing. Actually, in this region of Sicily, they eat horse, and let me tell you, it's very tasty.
So I have something. Havana version 1.0.10 was released on Sunday, right after the last Monerotopia podcast episode. So if you have not downloaded it yet, please do, because I posted about it on Monero Town when it came out, but I had looked like 48 hours later on the R Monero subreddit, and it wasn't even there. So I don't know if people know that it's necessarily available, and it is, and it has made some serious improvements. So it's a lot faster to get started now, and the denial of service attack seems to have been thwarted. It's gone, at least for
now. Modenta tipped $1. What's stopping other local exchanges accepting XMR in countries where there is no KYC regulation? Example, XMR Bazaar listings I have sent. Let me actually take a look at those listings if I can find them.
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. Yeah, see if you could bring that up.
I don't think there is anything stopping them. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what your question is referring to.
I think he's saying there were some new business listings added to XMR Bazaar with regards to trading, maybe in person between Monero and Cash. I'm not sure what it is.
All right, so we've got to type this in manually, unfortunately.
manually typing things.
Better you than me, man.
It's not too long. It's very short for the. Let's see if I can share my screen here. All right, Crypto Yan Exchange. This is one of them, Crypto Yan Exchange, which is in Armenia.
Oh, sick. Please contact directly.
Without KYC.
Oh, so he's talking about like the equivalent of the places you go in like Argentina to swap your dollars for. I can't think of the name.
Yes. Yeah. Cuevas.
Yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is in Armenia, and this is very cool. So he put it on the map. We're trying to get, try to get the Cuevas listed in some way, but obviously it needs to be done in a way where you don't. I don't know how they.
Yeah, I guess there's nothing stopping them from accepting Monero. It just might be that they don't. I mean, somebody else is the one who put this on here. It wasn't actually them, right? So if they can sell Bitcoin without KYC, I'm sure there's nothing stopping them from selling Monero without KYC. If that's something you're interested in, then please contact them, especially if you're actually able to go into this place, maybe see if that's something they'd be interested in doing.
Yeah, show them that there's demand for it. That's the best way to get them to do it.
What I think would be interesting, and it is a bit of a privacy compromise, I will say right offhand, so people would have to choose to individually do it, would be to put your listings as in like maybe the capital of your own state. So like if you live in like Colorado, you might put your listing is in Denver instead of United States, just so that people get an idea that, hey, Colorado has this many trade listings or whatever, or California has this many trade listings instead of just United States. as I said, that is a bit of a privacy compromise. So it would be something you'd have to choose to do individually, but it would be interesting to see if more people would want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, capital isn't that big of a deal. But Body, I think you wanted to say something.
Can you hear me? Is my mic working?
Yes, it is working.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of weird. My mic just cut out. I like interjected a few times, and I was like, "They're not listening to me." But no, my mic just wasn't working at all. Let me see. I guess it's kind of a change of topic since we were kind of on the exchange topic. But yeah, I did the. I had a debate with Super Testnet, and there's kind of like this. I don't know. I don't want to call it charm. You feel like there's this earnestness about him, and then later you find out that everything that you thought that you talked about with him wasn't in fact, like he used. Let me rephrase this. What I found in interacting with him the past couple of weeks, it seems like he like scavenges for these linguistic contrivances to make statements that are largely just devoid of crucial context, so that he can distort the reality of the situation. Like, I had this feeling like it seemed like he was interested, because he's fairly intelligent. Like, you can just tell talking with him, he's actually an intelligent guy, and he has some real skills. And so you think, okay, talking with this guy, we can like clear up some of his misunderstandings. He doesn't actually understand certain parts of the protocol. But even after doing that, he still leverages these like decontextualized linguistic contrivances into minutia as a means of trying to wholesale dismiss things that are very well reviewed, like these kind of cryptographic guarantees that we have, and all the while refusing to hold himself to a similar standard. It was
similar to the Darrow guy that we had a couple of weeks back, right? Kind of similar.
Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there as kind of maybe a way of sort of closing that out a bit. I was glad that he went on and talked with Luke, because there was a few like very pointed areas that I kind of missed that like normally I feel like I would have hammered home. And Luke kind of pointed out to me like, hey man, like there was a few things that you really should have said, as far as like the formal cryptographic guarantees. I guess I just wasn't of the mindset that this guy would wholesale just dismiss that cryptography is a thing or works. So anyways, that's kind of been it's been frustrating, because a lot of times you talk with these maxis that are kind of like, average pleb level, whatever, and you chat with them and like, all right, whatever your mind is, maybe you're just not at the level to understand this. But with this guy, you just got this feeling like, oh, he's actually genuine here. But it turns out I don't think he's genuine at all at this point. I think he's just applying his intellect as a means of dismissing his competition.
Interesting. The shills are getting better at not seeming like they're shilling, but really they are.
Craftly.
He's fairly well regarded in the Bitcoin community too.
Well, for me,
who's that? I heard somebody new.
It's crazy this how these organizations play, because the moon game never ends for them. But at the end of the day, everybody with just a tiny capacity of analyzing these things.
Bitcoin will be $1 million, guys. It will go up.
That's for me. It's like Nvidia spin-off. At this point, it's completely dead.
Yeah.
In all senses. To me, it's like another chunk in the S&P 500 and another thing to play, but no nothing in there at this point. And they already know that. Some of them, even I think Michael Saylor indeed knows this, but they are just playing the financial game, and trying to fool everybody as much as they can and going on. So this is nothing new to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think as Bitcoin gets more and more like air quote normalized by the traditional financial system, it'll become less and less unique, and then that value proposition that wasn't really there in the first place will start to diminish over time. But that's just my opinion. Anyone else have any other comments? Anything you want to say before we go ahead and close it off here?
Hello. No, just a question. Like, if silent payments have been implemented, what is the likelihood that sender privacy could be implemented in Bitcoin? Thanks.
I can't really speak to that directly. It's possible if somebody wants to create a BIP, there could be some potential ways to create sender privacy, but once again, due to how Bitcoin core and everything is laid out, where it's like it's not like Monero where there's a hard fork and everybody adopts the new version of Monero. It's not like that. So doing certain things would be very hard, if not impossible, in terms of like you could not provide sender privacy in the way that Monero does it on Bitcoin. It's literally just not possible. Even if you had this idea of ring signatures, it's like, okay, well, there's going to be like 3 people that actually use that. And then there's basically no anonymity set. So there's potentially some things that could be done to improve it. Like there's like coin joins, but even coin joins it's not very great.
You've got about a snowball's chance in hell of getting Bitcoin to adopt privacy things.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, we're the first ones to actually adopt, like silent payments has been a feature that's been worked on for years. It only somewhat recently became an actual BIP. It was proposed and then it became an actual BIP. And we're the first ones to adopt it and the only ones to do it so far.
I mean, from the point of purism, you can do it on Liquid, right? It's confidential transactions.
I cannot speak to Liquid. I have zero knowledge.
I don't know. I just heard about that. Yeah. But in the sense that you want it as simple as possible, I'm just like trying to hear how likely it is for, I don't know, perhaps it's possible to, without making ring signatures. I don't know what the masters have in mind, like the devs and all that. I don't know if it's possible.
For instance, like there is like, there was Whirlpool, like Whirlpool was pretty good to my knowledge. And it was like a lot better than your standard coin join. But I'm definitely not the person to answer that question. So I just
Liquid definitely does.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Benny.
Liquid definitely does have sender privacy. They implement, I don't know if it's ring signatures, but yeah, I think they do hidden amounts as well. The problem is that like nobody uses Liquid. So if you have like the anonymity set is so small that you could basically unwind those transactions. Like it's trivial at the moment. Like they're doing like a couple transactions per day. And the thing is they've had 5, 6 years, 7 years now for like stable coins. Like if Paolo and the gang really wanted to get on to Liquid and issue their stable coins on Liquid, they could have done this years and years ago, but they chose not to. So like it's just, I know it's kind of it's an unfortunate reality, but where the stable coins go, that's where all of the extra stuff, like all the contracts and all the extra stuff gets built on top of that. And for as long as stable coins aren't on Liquid and aren't really used in BTC, like they're just never gonna, you'll never see that network actually get used.
I mean, this is why I like you see someone like Seth who has tried really hard to try and push an advanced privacy in the Bitcoin space. And that's like a totally thankless job. And I respect his viewpoints on doing that, trying to get like, I guess more people in the Bitcoin space to be aware of privacy. But on my end, how I see it is just people in Bitcoin, they just don't care about privacy. And I personally don't see a point in trying to push anything for privacy on Bitcoin. Because if people actually want privacy, they'll just come over to Monero. Like we've seen hundreds of people over the past year just coming over to Monero and to the Monero community joining on. Because people in Bitcoin just don't care. Bitcoin's too controlled. It's too fragmented. And I'm glad there are things like silent payments and that we're working on them. I think it's great, but I think over time, the focus is more going to be on just getting people to come straight to Monero. I think it's kind of mostly a fruitless effort trying to get privacy on Bitcoin. That's just my opinion.
I feel for the sort of the journey that he made over the past year or so. Like myself personally, last year I tried to get positive on Lightning Network again because I was like, man, I see what's happening. All these layer 2s on Ethereum or Solana and the stable coins are going there, and they're going to be like the popular ones are going to be locked down. They're not locked down yet, but they will be because they've got the admin keys, and that effectively, like, we're losing the medium of exchange battle to stable coins, which are going to become a quasi CBDC anyways. And so I was like, okay, maybe we can get positive on Lightning. They like all we really need to do is increase the damn block size. And maybe there's stuff that can be done there, because like there are privacy advantages of Lightning. That doesn't mean that it's anywhere near as private as Monero, but like I wanted to try and give some credit there, and then like a few weeks, so I kind of like tried to pivot back to like, okay, well, let's try and like integrate with the Bitcoiners again and see if we can make progress. And it was one, it was a brick wall, but two, it was like the moment that ordinals hit the scene and then just started destroying the block space that was available, it was like, all right, this is over. So I think it was a worthwhile effort. I'm glad that Seth did transition over to the Bitcoin space, or kind of put both feet in both sides for a period of time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really starting to become a foregone conclusion that that's just a lost cause at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I forget to include Lightning in that thought process, and I think that's just because it's doesn't really solve the core issues of Bitcoin anyway, which is, I mean, the block size and how now it's been fine for a while, to be fair. The fees haven't been super crazy for a while, but I mean, even the fees on the day-to-day just aren't that great, to be honest. And yeah, Lightning does provide some privacy, and I am interested in the blinded routes, which will add better receiver privacy. So yeah, I definitely see Lightning as being something that can help privacy on Bitcoin for sure. Well, not on Bitcoin on chain directly, of course, but sort of offloading it. But yeah, it's just a matter of, do people really care to like keep on pushing and improving it in that way?
Yeah, that was my point. If people really care about that purism, if it's over Lightning or not, or if the transaction matters to the end user, like the majority doesn't know what they're doing, But anyway, thanks for the inputs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you only get the privacy benefits with Lightning if you run your own node, and that's not trivial to do.
Is that you have to be knowledgeable in the setup, and whereas most people who are actually using Lightning today are probably using I don't think it works in the US anymore. I think they shut down Wallet of Satoshi, right? But most people are using pre-built systems with you're using one node, like somebody else's third-party node with a third-party Lightning service provider. Most people don't host their own Lightning node who are actually using Lightning. And then a lot of it's custodial. So even if it is not custodial, you're losing a lot of those potential privacy advantages than if you host your own node. But lots of people aren't even using a non-custodial solution. They're using a custodial Lightning solution.
Monero is the iPhone of crypto. Like, you just pick it up and start using it, and you get your privacy by default, and it just works.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why I've always really focused on Monero for primarily for just general adoption, and that's what I push people for if they're new in crypto, or if they're less experienced, or if they're interested, just because it's easy, right? Like, Lightning's actually not that easy. Like, once you get into a place where you can actually spend, okay, it's like, oh, I send it and see it sent, whatever. But you have to offload your Bitcoin, and sometimes there's extra fees involved if you have to open a new channel, or if you had a channel that got force closed. And there's a lot of other things that you have to take into account with the user experience with Lightning. Whereas Monero, it's just you receive and you send. And it's not necessarily as instant as if you were using Lightning, where you have to do scanning locally on the device, which is something that we're all used to, but that can be a downside for new people or people who have poor internet. But that's going to be improved very soon, and it'll be in a place within I'm sure within the next couple of years where most people will be able to just open their phone and it be pretty much synced with those new view tags that'll be out in the next hard fork. But it's simple because there's one address type, right? You don't have private and non-private coins, just one address type. You just send and receive. That's it. It just that's how it should be. That's how it should be, and that's why it's so easy to onboard people to Monero, because it's so simple and easy to think about. There's nothing crazy going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, but to the user, it just looks like you're receiving and sending, which is great.
I have a maximalist friend that's he also has Monero. He has some, like, he at least respects Monero and actually occasionally uses it. But he's told me for like a year or two now, he's like, out of principle, I will never run my own Lightning node. He's like, it should be so that I can just use it. I could download an app and it just works. So he uses Lightning over Phoenix, which obviously is just any claims you could have made about your privacy benefits on Lightning are just completely demolished when you start using an LSP like that, even if it's fully you're holding your own funds, right? It's a non-custodial solution. But yeah, he's like, I'll never run a Lightning node out of principle. And I'm like, well, there you go. Like he's sort of like the advanced pleb in Bitcoin. Like he's not exactly a coder or anything. He's not a dev. He's just kind of like a bro. And it's like, if he's been in Bitcoin for this long, well before the fork, and he's not going to run his own Lightning node, then you're not going to get anyone else running. Like you're not going to get the average pleb running their own Lightning node.
No, it's not happening. And also, like, potential maintenance wise, like if there's something that happens to your Lightning node, right? If you have like this set up, if somebody set this up for you, well, that's going to be a burden, because they're not going to know how to fix it or what to do with it. Now, I personally don't know the burden of running a Lightning node, because I currently don't run my own. I ran one briefly. I didn't really use it though, because I don't actually use Lightning. But for someone who actually uses Lightning a lot and has their own node, I couldn't speak to that specifically.
I think it's gotten a lot easier. I think there's solutions like Umbrel and Start9 that make it easier, but there's so many other things that go into it. It's like, okay, well, which routing node are you connecting to? Because if you're connecting to some major liquidity hub, that liquidity hub knows that you're the endpoint. Like it's really, really simple for them. They're like, oh, this node hasn't declared itself to the rest of the network. It's not a routing node. They're an endpoint. So now they know all of your transactions, and the big liquidity hubs, we have to assume they're compromised.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
And chances are that your own node's going to be hosted from your home, from your own public IP address that's tied to you.
Yeah, that too. Like you need to run over Tor, which actually makes it really slow to be able to connect to your cell phone. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that it sounds like a great idea. Like a payment channel network sounds like a really great idea, but you just add complexity onto complexity to the point that it's like, well, okay, now it's not actually practical for the average person to use. It would be practical though for you to get together with, say, 20 or 30 of your friends and run a dedicated Monero node if you really wanted to, and say, hey, all right, your friends, your family, everyone can connect into this Monero node. We're sharing the costs, right? It's probably just a few dollars a month for everybody in aggregate. Even if we are running, say, 20, 50 million transactions a day, 100 million transactions a day, yeah, that's a big node, but it's much easier to spread those costs and keep the complexity reduced to a level that's manageable. And Monero still has all of these privacy guarantees, even if you're connecting into someone else's node. Like you still get strong, robust privacy. Yeah, it's not perfect, and you get degraded privacy a little bit. But I mean, with Lightning, it's like all of these things that you have to do, or else you're basically sacrificing your privacy in a way that means you don't really have privacy anymore. A lot of those things just don't apply to Monero, even when used in a non-ideal fashion.
Yeah, and the way in which Lightning was born was, I mean, I think a lot of people would agree in that at some point, if Monero got so big, it could use like an L2 to help offload some of that transactions from the chain. Now we're very, 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 very far away from that. But the way in which Lightning was born is partially out of the loss of the block wars, where Bitcoin is just so inefficient that they're trying to solve the problems of on-chain, of Bitcoin on-chain, by offloading it to Lightning. And it's just, you end up running into the same issues. Whereas, if Bitcoin fees are really, really high, people are like, oh, just use Lightning. But if you're not in Lightning, if you don't have enough liquidity in Lightning, or if you want to put more into Lightning, or if you have to open new channels because you haven't used Lightning in a while, well, you're going to be spending the cost, if not more, of an on-chain transaction. So it doesn't solve that problem.
Yeah, I mean, I can see payment channel networks being a small piece of a layer 2 scaling solution. It's right. It's not like that they're just completely totally useless by any means. It's just that actually having a robust payment channel network that functions in real time as a means of your scalability solution, like it's just not viable, at least at the moment. And I think it might not ever be viable. I think Howard Chu was the one that pointed out. He said, "Guys, this is a graph theory problem that might be unsolvable. Like if we haven't solved it to date." And I could be wrong, but my thinking is that some kind of rollups are going to be like would at least for a network like Monero, in the sense that we're like not necessarily sovereign rollups or some of these like really complex contracts rollups constructions, but just like just the basic validity rollups where the proof, like, the on-chain, you can't get the transaction approved unless the proof actually like works out. So it's not an optimistic system like many of the other rollups. Who knows, right? That's like big speculation there, but I'm just not sure payment channel networks is going to be the layer 2 scaling solution for really any chain.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what will come out when it gets to that. But right now, Lightning just kind of is. I mean, it is getting better in ways, to be fair, but it's never been great, and it's been out for a really long time. And I do see the sentiment kind of middling on it. There's a lot of people who have become discouraged at the state of it. But yeah.
What's that rule or that law that if something has been around for a long time, it'll continue to be around for a long time?
The Lindy effect.
Yeah, the Lindy effect. So this is like the inverse Lindy effect, where if something has been promised that it's coming and it's going to work, but it like continues to not show up and not work, then the odds increase that it just never will.
Two more weeks.
Yeah, a concept which I just invented right now. I should post that. I think I'm going to post that on Twitter. The inverse Lindy.
Inverse Lindy.
Yep.
Hey guys,
Right,
I want to
anyone
jump
else?
in here. I want.
Oh, yeah,
I
go
wanna
ahead,
jump
Jacob.
in
How's
here
it going?
real quick. So I wasn't really ready to present all of this, so I've been over here like frantically putting all of this together, because there's so much info. So because of time constraints, I won't have it done before the end of this stream. But as soon as it's done, there's a lot that's coming your guys' way. So yeah, be looking out for that.
Is this about the 2034 plan in Utah?
Yes, sir.
I'd be interested to see this myself. Maybe you could come on next week also and show some of this if you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, our state government launched a wallet. Even like, what the hell is that? There's citizen portals that require biometrics to be able to sign up for it. Our entire state is wired up to fiber optic internet now. And what's interesting is the fiber optic internet companies are in a public-private partnership with local governments. So I was going to switch over to fiber optic in my area. And then I learned that half of my bill actually goes to my city government. And that just made me really confused. It's like, why the hell is my city government conducting business as if they were just any other regular business? So, and there's a lot. So even just trying to get like a Twitter thread coherent enough with enough of what there is to be able to have people be like, oh, okay, I see, is been quite the task. Like I said, I wasn't ready, but it will be out today. I'll send it. I'll come back. And if anybody has any questions or anything, just reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram or wherever.
Yeah, man, we could have you on again as a guest, obviously anytime, but pre-planned so you could be the special guest and present it if you like. Or
yeah, whenever. I want to bring this to everyone's attention because it's all the things that we're concerned about and it's happening. So
it's coming to your local county.
Yes, it is, and it's going to be on display for the entire world to see, and the taxpayers are going to foot the bill. So that's even nicer, I guess. But yeah, a thread will be out today. I'll share it around and send it to you guys and stuff. So
very cool, man. Very cool.
Thanks, Jacob G. That reminded me of a rant about networking companies. Yeah, I'm like paying for internet in Bulgaria, and the company A1 doesn't allow me to make a local login to my router. It's a Huawei router. I want to cancel the contract. I go to the other companies. They also say, like Yetel and Vivacom, they don't even have access. It's also fiber optics, and it's a disgrace. And the cherry on top is that you cannot log in locally to your router, but we can rent you a bridge such that you can forward your ports yourself. So thanks.
That's unfortunate. Like fiber is really nice to have, but I guess some ISPs are abusing fiber plans and taking control of what you're allowed to do with your own network. Thankfully, I'm not in that position. I have AT&T fiber, but I have full control over my network. I don't even have to use their router if I don't want to. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and close it off.
Yeah, it's a good place to end it. We got to run over here. Thank you so much, guys. Amazing show. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on today. You're welcome anytime. Bawdy, as always. Everybody Jacob, thank you, man. Shortwave, man. Appreciate all the tips and everything you're doing with XMR Bazaar. Tux, obviously, thank you. Tony with the news. Am I forgetting any? Oh, Alaska, man. Alaska, as always. And I don't know. Somebody came in and tried to push you off the stage. We had to give him some time. I think that was actually D Martian under another account, acting a little riled up today. But Alaska, we love you,
I had the
man.
distinct impression it was D Martian as well.
Yeah. I think D Martian was flying high.
Sounded
today.
like D Martian.
And we love him too. You're just a little hot and heavy today. But yeah, let's close it out here, and we'll see you guys next week, same time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
see you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next